Greetings, imagination connoisseurs. Once again, it is I, your Duke of Dope Discourse, Robert Meyer Burnett. I invite you to watch and listen to the Designing Hollywood podcast, brought to you by Martika Ibarra and the great, legendary Hollywood costume designer, Marilyn Vance. I am afforded the wonderful opportunity of co-hosting the show. If you are interested in the magic of Hollywood, the design of Hollywood, the clothes of Hollywood, watch the Designing Hollywood podcast, available wherever you get your podcasts from, or find the video version on the John Campea YouTube channel. That's right, the Designing Hollywood podcast. Why would you ever want to miss it? Especially if you love the movies.
Observations with Robert Meyer Burnett.
I've heard it said before, like, it was a very smart man named Robert Meyer Burnett who said the currency of our current age is authenticity. And it's so true.
Imagination Connoisseurs Unlimited, in association with Road to Perdition writer Max Allen Collins, presents True Noir, the Nathan Heller Casebooks, a new full-blown audio drama starring Todd Stashwick. You loved him as Captain Liam Shaw in Star Trek Picard Season 3, and you feared him as Deacon in 12 Monkeys. Coming soon to a crowdfunding campaign near you. Greetings, imagination connoisseurs. Once again, it is I, your Duke of Dope Discourse, your master of fun and wonder, your viceroy of verisimilitude, your sommelier of sci-fi and cinema, your evangelist of the imagination, and the perhaps never to be defined existential Mr. Rogers. That's right, me, Robert Meyer Burnett, and I am Robcasting you from the Robservatory. This is Robservations number 939. You know, I was looking for a topic today. There's so many things to talk about. We'll talk about the Disney deal with Sony with physical media tomorrow. But I was looking for, there's the SAG Awards are happening, but, we're on the downside, the downslope of awards season. It's not like there was any major upsets, although there was a few. And the SAG, the thing about the SAG Awards is the actors are presenting their own awards. They're presenting awards to their own, so it means something because you're getting them truly from your peers, and no one else votes. So that's cool. But I figured Mike Bodden, who sends me along letters, found a bunch of letters that he hadn't sent me from the last couple months, and people have been asking. Because I'd asked him, I said, people have been asking about their letters, and is there some I haven't seen? And he sent me a whole slew of letters. But I figured I'd start with one. See, what I find really interesting about the internet, and I've been on YouTube now in April, it will be 9 years. I started off on Collider Heroes, actually AMC Heroes, April of 2015 with John Schnepp and John Campea, and 9 years later, here we are. And depending on it's interesting because I kind of exist in different spheres on the internet. I've got this show. People who watch John Campea's show still don't know I have my own YouTube channel, which always fascinates me. But that's okay. I watch all kinds of different stuff on YouTube. So it's not surprising that people don't know that I have my own show, even though I'm now into year 6 that I've been doing this show. But I get it. I understand. And that's okay. Different strokes for different folks. People know me on Twitter, mouthing off. People know me in filmmaking circles. People know me in action figure collecting circles. It's different spheres, and most of the time these groups of people don't meet. I've always kind of had that. I've always had kind of these compartmentalized groups of friends that I've had throughout my life, and it's fine that way. And a lot of the time they don't mix very well. So that's okay. But also, people know me, like, when I say something that people who know me from one of these spheres finds out of character, suddenly they can get really angry or mad. Or just they don't understand. And I think it's interesting if I follow somebody or if I'm friends with somebody, and they say something that's relatively outlandish, I think it's outlandish. Like, where did that come from? I always ask them, I don't think it's a hard thing to do. But if in this day and age, if you say something that offends somebody, or rather than ask you, well, that's pretty incendiary, why do you have that point of view? They do what I like to call a drive-by, when they'll just come and they'll take the time to say something to you, but then they run away. And I want to start the show with an email that I received this week. And it comes to me from Tim Love. And Tim Love, of course, included an email address. And this is what Tim Love wrote. His subject headline was, "Just go away. Rob, I have unfollowed you on X. You are no liberal. You are a right-wing loon. I will not allow myself to see you big up the drinker and nerdrotic. You are the enemy. You are my enemy. Just unhinged now, like Chris Gore. You two have fallen. Never darken my timeline again. Also, your political stances this week are unhinged." So, okay, that's... First of all, I got to say, I admire somebody for taking the time to write this. But I don't really understand what he's saying. I am no liberal. Why? To be honest, because you bring up nerdrotic and you bring up the critical drinker, what does that mean? I like Gary Beekler and I like the drinker. And as a matter of fact, I don't know if you saw the trailer for the Drinkers movie, but the Drinker is making a low-budget action film. I know a lot of people have come up and said, well, it's not like we haven't seen it before. And I'm like, he's making a low-budget action movie. There's a long storied genre of low-budget action films, but he's going out and doing it. It's very interesting. I see the fact that we have Chris Stuckman and Critical Drinker that all exist kind of in the same ecosphere are going out and actually making a movie. Chris Stuckman has learned a lot. He crowdfunded. He's also a published author, and made movies. So I think it's really interesting. The French film magazine Cahiers du Cinéma, which is very, very famous magazine about film, started publishing in 1951, I think. Well, we had filmmakers like Francois Truffaut, André Bazin. Actually, I don't think Bazin made movies, but Truffaut, Godard. These were all critics that wrote for Cahiers du Cinéma, which was one of the most important voices to define cinema as an art form, or important magazines. And, the French New Wave, the Italian neo-realist movement, there was a lot going on at the time. So I kind of see what Chris Stuckman has done and what Critical Drinker is doing right now is kind of, in a way, an extension of that. Now, I'm not saying that Stuckman or Critical Drinker are going to make Jules and Jim, or Masculine Feminine anytime soon. They might. You never know. But I love the fact that they are stepping out and they're taking a big leap, and especially in this space that is very unforgiving. So I am proud to, the Critical Drinker cited me on Russell Brand's show. I'm a huge fan of Get Him to the Greek, so it tickled me to hear Critical Drinker tell Russell Brand about me, despite whatever Russell Brand's proclivities are and what he used to do before he sort of cleaned up his life. But anyway, so I get this letter, and I honestly don't know what it's even pertaining to. Does he not appreciate my stance on the war in Gaza? Is he mad about something I said about Madam Web? I don't even know. But the important thing is, since he took the time to write this, I wrote him back. And let me read to you what I sent to Tim Love. Timothy Love. Tim, I do appreciate you took the time to write me an email. It means a great deal to hear back from people, no matter their point of view. While I appreciate you have a problem with my opinion, whether it be in entertainment or world affairs, I'd ask you to consider why you think I believe what I believe. How did I draw the conclusions I've drawn? You might vehemently disagree with my stances on certain issues, but I can assure you they are well considered for me. I can argue my points during a live, long-form discussion if necessary. Our world is headed into a very tumultuous period. It needs serious people, able to confront all sorts of difficulties, and one of the most important will be able to converse with those you may disagree with, politically or otherwise. Unfollowing someone on social media doesn't make those people go away. You claim we have fallen. I assume that means from somewhere. Out of curiosity, where did you think we fell from? A place from which you agreed with us? You say our political stances are unhinged, but you don't say why you think that is so. I do a live show at least 3 times a week, as I have for the last 6 years on my own YouTube channel, the Burnettwork. The entire channel is devoted to talking with other fans about the issues of the day in a respectful manner. I invite you to tune in and join the conversation. Again, I very much appreciate you reaching out. All the best, RMB. Emailed it to him. The email address was, of course, fake. And he didn't get it, and the letter bounced back to me. But I thought this letter deserved some kind of a response. I could have just said, fuck you. But I genuinely was interested. Like, what was it that I honestly don't know. My political stances are unhinged. Well, look, I mean, if he's talking about the war in Gaza, what is my response to that? Lots of innocent people are dying. And I think there's a lot of misinformation. I mean, I'm seeing all kinds of crazy stuff. There's definitely a far left narrative about the whole thing. To call, I think, the Israelis colonizers is absurd. But, you know, I don't want to get into all of those things. But those are opinions that I have. It doesn't make me a right-wing loon. I don't even know what that means. But it's okay. But what I don't appreciate is if you're going to write me something, if you're going to write into me, I would assume that means you're looking to have some kind of a, maybe not a discourse. If you want to tell me to fuck off, just tell me to fuck off. But you sent me in this letter, and I'm always curious, what did you think would happen by sending this to me? Are you trying to make me feel bad? Are you trying to make me, I don't know. I mean, you're expressing your discontent with me. It's pretty general. But I've always wondered what the intent is. I mean, poison pen letters are great if you understand why they're being written. I don't really understand this, but I am no liberal. I'm not convinced that you even know the difference between right-wing and liberal based on this letter. I wish I did. I just want to thank you, Tim Love, or whatever your name is, for writing this in. But if you're going to do that, let's elevate the discourse a little more. Why don't you explain your position? State it so I can understand it. And, you know, maybe we can offer dialogue. And maybe you're right about some things. Maybe I'm wrong. You know, this could be a teaching moment. Or perhaps it's not a teaching moment. But either way, I thought it was cowardly of you to send a letter in and leave a fake email address so I couldn't write you back. I know that about you. You're a coward. And you feel the need to express yourself, great. But you should at least have the common courtesy. If you're going to state your opinion to me, you should give me an opportunity to respond. I love this next letter. This is from the fan with no name. And the subject headline is Rob's beloved Michelangelo Antonioni's trilogy of decadence. So, as many of you know, I always, well, maybe not always, but I often speak, excuse me, I often speak about how audiences of today they're not incapable, but they're not trained to watch a lot of movies, older movies. And as an example, I sometimes use the films of Andrei Tarkovsky, but I also talk about Michelangelo Antonioni's Ennui trilogy that he made in the early 60s, La Notte, La Ventura, and The Eclipse. And they're very European, you know, they're very Italian, but they're not like the kind of movies that we're used to today. They don't exactly hammer home the 3-act structure. And, you know, most people don't even know what ennui means anymore, even though I think there's more of it now than there ever has been, especially in America. But I always use it as a litmus test. I always say to people, try it. Try watching these movies and see if you even can. Because they're kind of tough. Another movie that I would say to try watching, which has a little bit more entertainment value. I find these movies very entertaining, but is Last Year at Marienbad. Check that one out. But here's the letter. Hey, Rob, I've been a fan of yours ever since I caught you on Schnepp's show reviewing Suicide Squad. I love your show because the entertainment, the education, and the engagement you give back to the fans. Maybe I'm in the minority, but my favorite rants are when you berate us. It feels like you're yelling directly at me to read more or watch more classics. Most of the time, I find myself pulling over in my car just to write down a list of your recommendations. Recently, I've accepted your challenge, and I've watched Antonioni's Trilogy of Decadence. Before I give my thoughts, I'd like to briefly describe myself without boring you and the viewers. I'm 29 years old. Wow. I'm from New York. I went to a Merchant Marine Academy to study facility engineering, and now I work 2 full-time jobs as a stationary engineer. One of the perks of my second job is I have the luxury of watching movies all shift long. While I realize this is not the best scenario to view films, it's better than not viewing them at all. Now on to the movies. I knew nothing about the context of each. As someone who often likes to go in cold, I believe this negatively affected my first viewing. Unintentionally, I began out of order with La Notte. Let me start off saying, you were right. This was a difficult watch. I'm hesitant to say that I was entertained by La Notte, but I also found myself contemplating what I had just seen. What was entertaining was the location shooting throughout La Notte, which seems to be a constant in all of Antonioni's movies. Side note, his blow-up rips. Blow-up is the name of another movie he made, very famous. Go fucking figure, I got more thrills from the locations and the camera movement from a 1960s existential romance trilogy on my laptop than I did from Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. Before I continue, I'd like to give the courtesy of a quick spoiler warning. But if you're someone else listening and interested in this assignment, I believe if I told you every plot point and line, it would not ruin what each film sets out to do. I agree. When I was done with La Notte, I hopped online to work out my thoughts on what I'd just seen. And to my surprise, Pauline Kael, one of the great movie reviewers of all time, negatively reviewed the movie, calling it empty. She writes, La Notte is supposed to be a study in the failure of communication. But what new perceptions of this problem do we get by watching people on the screen who can't communicate if we're never given any insight into what they would have to say if they could talk to each other? Oh, I miss Pauline Kael. I think we did get some insight. From the beginning, Giovanni seems to only be interested in himself and relishes in anyone who admires his work. When he's sitting alone at dinner with his wife, he can't even make small talk. But whether he's at a book signing or a high roller party, he finds himself the center of every conversation. Lydia, on the other hand, is constantly walking away from the attention. She seems to find comfort walking through the old neighborhood and even hopes her husband can be inspired by it. At the end of the movie, both come to grips that they share a loveless marriage, and Lydia recites a letter Giovanni had written her once. Once again, she is reminiscing at a simpler time. When it is revealed to Giovanni that the letter is in fact his, he throws himself at her. I believe Giovanni does this because he has once again been shown validation for his talent as a writer. I also think somewhere in the subtext of the movie there's a correlation of Giovanni's writer's block and his erectile dysfunction. This could be a reach, as I've only watched the movie once, and I might be remembering it wrong. Miss Kael is correct. The movie is about a failure of communication, but I believe Antonioni set out to put the viewer in the place of one of the lovers. We're never directly told why our partner does not love us anymore. We're given a series of events and are left to ponder, why did this fail? As any broken heart would in the aftermath of a relationship. I totally agree with that assessment, by the way. I next watched La Ventura, which plays closer to the traditional plot and story. Once again, I was enthralled by the locations the characters visited. The kid in me is dying to take a boat out to those rocky islands on the coast of Sicily and explore. The adult in me wants to spend 2 weeks traveling across Italy. At the start of the movie, when Anna and Claudia are shooting the shit over this upcoming trip and their status and the status of the men in which they are seeing, I said to myself, this is kind of playing out like White Lotus Season 2. And lo and behold, White Lotus gave us a shot-for-shot homage in front of the Aubrey Plaza. Yes, they did. I believe in this scene, Antonioni projects Claudia's internal feelings. Her facial expression shows her visibly torn, but she also seemed to enjoy the men circled around her in admiration. When Sandro appears to be entering the plaza with Anna, she seems embarrassed and runs, almost as an admission of guilt. The eclipse is the one I have thought about the least since watching. Perhaps Antonioni has gone too far for me. Perhaps I was exhausted by the end of my existential romance binge. I just found the characters the least compelling of the three movies. To me, Vittoria represents someone with classical ideas that carry over to her romantic feelings. Piero, the young man who catches her interest, represents a new world. She's intrigued by this new age, but she could not understand this new type of man the same way she does not understand the stock exchange. Suppose this means traditional love cannot exist in a new age. When asking this question, the landscape of Italy plays a symbolic role as well. Italy has both a foot in the door between the classical world and the new world. These are just my brief, limited thoughts. I'd love to hear yours. Since watching this trilogy, I've also taken the time to watch other movies out of my comfort zone, like Band of Outsiders, Breathless, The 400 Blows, Jules and Jim, The Man Who Knew Too Much, Persona, and The Seventh Seal, while also finally getting around to some more well-known classics on my list, like Lawrence of Arabia, Casablanca, and The Maltese Falcon. The next director I plan on diving into is either Fellini, with 8.5 and La Dolce Vita, or Tarkovsky. If you're going to watch Tarkovsky, watch Nostalgia in the Mirror, and then Solaris. My movie watching has slowed down a bit because in the last 2 weeks I've been reading the Earth's Remembrance trilogy like a crackhead. I'm 200 pages into Death's End. Once again, thank you, Rob, for both the movie and reading recommendations, as well as the time and effort you put into this channel. Not only has your work inspired me to broaden my media diet, shout out to Chris Gore, but I hope in studying these movies and books it will shape me as a better person. Be seeing you, the fan with no name. Well, first of all, fan, what a great list of movies. I mean, I just say Antonioni because they're a tough sit, but Band of Outsiders, Breathless, The 400 Blows, Jules and Jim, The Man Who Knew Too Much, Persona, and The Seventh Seal. You're talking Bergman there. You're talking Truffaut. You're talking Godard. I mean, it blows me away that the staples of film school that anybody who went to film school or studied film in college, at least when I was going to college 30 years ago, if not 35 years ago, that people don't watch these things anymore. Like, you couldn't be a serious student of film if you had not watched Jules and Jim, if you had not watched Breathless. Certainly if you hadn't watched, well, Persona, but at least The Seventh Seal. People watch The Seventh Seal and like, oh, it's like Bill and Ted. And you're like, oh my God. Yes. Bill and Ted ripped it off from The Seventh Seal. It's like I feel like today everything when people go back and these movies were so influential, but when people go back and see them, all they see is the Simpsons parody, or they see the parodies that were in other movies, or they think Breathless stars Richard Gere, and it's frustrating. It's frustrating to be a fan of cinema, and this is what Martin Scorsese's talking about when he's talking about. It's not that he doesn't think superhero movies are cinema. They clearly are. But as you now know, when you watch Antonioni movies and you watch his Ennui trilogy, they might as well be coming from Mars. They're so different from, say, Infinity War and Endgame. And what's going on in the movies is so vastly different. The way the films are, the way the stories are told, and it's a very different way. Same art form, same medium. It's just that they're very different kinds of movies. And unfortunately, American films have become, I think, very, in terms of the kinds of movies that we're getting, rather generic, especially in terms of how they're told. And it's because as our society has become more corporatized, and let's face it, as you now know, the Antonioni movies and all the other movies you mentioned, Jules and Jim, Breathless, in our major cities in the 60s, people were going to see these movies. These kinds of foreign films were talked about. They were important works of art. They weren't just entertainment. And what was really interesting about, for me, that, like you said, the transition between classical Italy and modern Italy, and the fact that you have, once Rome, the seat of power, the Roman Empire, and now look where we are. And you have, handsome people dressed up in beautiful suits going to these parties, not able to connect with one another. And I think that that's kind of the real question. What I find really interesting when I watch those movies, especially now, is it really is like you're looking at people that are barely recognizable as human. We see them as human beings, but what they're going through is they're trying to find meaning in the world around them. And how do you make your inner life, what's going on inside of you and what you're thinking about or what you're maybe not thinking about, square with what's happening around you? You know, when I was at Evergreen, the Evergreen State College, we had what were called coordinated studies programs. And you would have 3 professors and you were doing different kinds of studying. And the coordinated studies program I took first when I got there as a freshman was called The Making of Meaning. And I thought it was really fascinating. And there were things in it. We read Jung, we read Man and His Symbols. I read a book I talked about on the show before called The Hidden Dimension by Edward T. Hall. And there was another interesting book called Patterns in Nature. And The Hidden Dimension was all about architectural space and the kinds of spaces that we exist in, and how some civilizations want, you know, you're like you getting close to people, even smelling. I know it sounds kind of gross, but is part of the experience of how you get to know people. And there was all these fascinating concepts that I'd never really thought about. And I remember walking around just looking at the spaces that we exist in, like why high ceilings? I love high ceilings. I love that sense of space, but I'd never thought about it before. I'm just like, this is cool. Why do I think that? Where did that come from? And I think that Antonioni's movies are like that. You know, it's making you, like, what I find really interesting is I used to like going to malls and things, and I still love going to bars and by myself, going to the movies by myself. And I love going to see the movies, but I just love observing people, eavesdropping on conversations. Not because I'm some weird voyeur, but just because it's fascinating to see the different levels that people are living their lives out on. I mean, we want all kinds of stimulation, but what about quiet moments? You know, how much of us just take time to be silent and not do anything? And I think what sometimes it's interesting to go out into the world with the express purpose of just observing. And maybe that's something a filmmaker does, or maybe that's within me that I've always thought about doing that. But it's a very interesting, the world is a very interesting place. And I always talk about looking outward. Now it's all, we live in a society where it's all me, 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 me. Everything has to, if I'm not happy 100% of the time, or I'm not being stimulated 100% of the time, you need to make sure that I am. Or Tim Love, the letter writer, if you're not saying stuff that only appeals to me, and that if you say anything that I don't like or whatever, I'm going to write you a poison pen letter and get mad and say you're a right-wing loon. I'm not going to tell you why I think that. I'm just going to call you one. Because you've said something that I don't like. And I've always found that fascinating, because the world is a place that's full of all kinds of things that I don't like. But I like to go out and experience it. Not because I want to judge somebody, but just to take it in. Just to go out and see what's out there. And I think that the one thing about Antonioni's movies, what they do, and we don't do that so much now, is our inner voice, our inner lives, what's going on in our heads. How does that square with the lives of quiet desperation that we lead? Like, I've been going down this rabbit hole about simulation theory, about how maybe we live, this is all a simulation. And when you start going into it, there are very interesting things to contemplate. The physical laws of our universe. Well, they seem like they're physical laws to us. But if you look at it from a gaming perspective or a simulation perspective, it's kind of a brilliant way. Like, you know, the first thing I would do sometimes when I got like Grand Theft Auto 5 is you go out into the water and you swim in a straight line till you can't go in. Like, how far does this go? And the idea that we live in a cosmos where even at the speed of light, none of us will ever get to anywhere in the cosmos. Well, that's convenient, you know, if you're living in a simulation, that you're limited, like just like in a game, you can only go so far out because there's nothing beyond. It hasn't been programmed into the game that you're playing. It doesn't go on forever. I mean, now we have games that do go on forever. Well, not totally forever, but like if you played No Man's Sky, how far can you go straight until you hit the end of the universe? I guess, some games keep adding to it because your little sphere of influence, they'll just keep going. But string theory is not string theory. Simulation theory is very interesting. So the funny thing is my contemplating simulation theory has nothing to do with my daily life at all. I'm thinking about it, and the funny thing is I've been thinking a lot about my coordinated studies program, Man's Search for Meaning, back in college 35 years ago, because let's say tomorrow we found out that the universe that we're living in is indeed a simulation. And not only is it a simulation, we're 100 levels down from base reality. Like 100 universal simulations. We're the 100th. And if we found out that, and what I mean by that is there is a reality that is base reality. And according to simulation theory, the people became so advanced in base reality that they were able to create a self-perpetuating universe that is a complete simulation, but it's a universe. And then the people in that universe became so sophisticated that this first level of simulation, they created a simulated universe. And then that simulated universe, and so on, and so on, and so on. Because when we get technologically advanced, and if you think about it, the way we've created open sandbox games, very primitive, but imagine what our technology is going to be like in 50 years, or 100, or 1,000. Of course we can create universes. But for the people, just to keep, it really got me thinking about sleeping, because there's a really interesting physics problem or physics test about particles going through. I don't want to get into it, but if you look it up, there's a couple of great videos on simulation theory, and you start listening to it, and you're like, huh, that's pretty compelling stuff. But I've been thinking about what I was in college. So if I found out that this universe is entirely a simulation, that I am a simulation, that the world around me is a simulation, would that matter? Theoretically, would it? Because it's still the universe I'm living in, unless I can figure out, some people believe that they come from other universes anyway. And would I be able to, how would that affect me? If I knew I was living in a simulation, my life would still matter to me. It's not like being aware that I'm living in a simulation is going to allow me to see the simulation. I still have to live in this world. I still have to live. So the question is, how would that affect meaning for me? What would my life mean? Would that I not fear? The thing about it is that would almost assure that there's indeed an afterlife, because where would you go? Does your part of the simulation just disappear, or do you go down further or back up? Maybe heaven is as you're ascending up, and eventually you'll get to the original simulation right off base reality. I don't think you're ever going to be Olivia Wilde and Tron Legacy and join the real world or the base reality world, but you never know. Who knows? I don't know. But Antonioni's movies are all about what we make of our lives, and how it's really hard to connect with other people, genuinely connect with them, I think. But I think you pretty much nailed it, and I like to hear about your film journey, which was pretty great. So thank you for that. This letter comes to me from Patrick Fisher. It says, hey, Mike, can you let Rob and maybe Dieter know that there are 2 new anniversary James Bond expanded soundtrack releases? I suspect Rob would be a fan of at least one of the soundtracks. That would be Octopussy and Live and Let Die, I believe, from La La Land Records. So, La La Land Records has been putting out banger soundtracks for as long as I can remember. So thank you for that. I appreciate that. Can we send you a book? And this Attalus says, Rob, you've read our letters on your show in the past. Now we'd like to send you something a bit more substantial in the form of our new book, What in Hell with Us? Transhumanism or Transhumanist AI, Conspiracy, Red Pill, Woke Culture Wars, New Age Awakening, and the Great Awakening. There's a P.O. box listed online, but we're not sure if that's the right address to send you a book. It is. Of course, if you prefer, we could send you an ebook version. That too, although I like books. You're the only YouTube entertainment pundit mentioned in our book that we're approaching with a copy. Why? Because we don't count the Post-Geek singularity in The Phantom Menace. You don't sign off by telling your viewers to stay angry, for instance. That makes you the James T. Kirk, Jean-Luc Picard, possibly even Luke Skywalker of fandom, in our eyes. We have much to say about fandom, the culture wars, and how it ties to the great awakening of humanity. You know this intuitively, which is why you lament the veritable erasure of the possibility of humanity becoming a part of the United Federation of Enlightened Planets, which is real, by the way, and this planet is the origin of the Prime Directive as a concept in Trek. All of this will become self-evident to you when you read our book. We would love to speak to you about it eventually, on camera or off. Please let us know where we can send you a copy, signed or not, your choice, and where we should send it. Kind regards, Attalus. Please, Attalus, sign the book and send it to the P.O. Box. I would love to get that. Very interesting. I'm intrigued. Very interesting. So, yeah, please do. This one comes from Martin Zauer. Martin Zauer writes, I recently thought about Starfleet Academy, the series in preparation, and I thought of a cool, and to some people certainly shocking, teaser opening for the first episode. I sent in an attachment for your consideration as an imagination appetizer of things that can be. Keep up the good work, Rob, and keep the Robservations coming. I wonder when does 1000 come out? Hopefully I can get it by May. This is it's not that long, so I'll read it. Martin Zauer, all rights reserved. And the pre-credit part of the pilot episode for the Starfleet Academy series. Remember, this is all fan-made. List of characters. Fleet Admiral. Female, non-human, late 50s. List of places, interiors. 1. Office of Fleet Admiral, San Francisco, Earth, Sector 001. Fade in. Interior, Office of the Fleet Admiral, late afternoon. We can see that the sun is already going down. The Fleet Admiral is standing. We see a desk beside. There are windows and the San Francisco panorama as the background. Fleet Admiral, proudly. It is my honor to welcome fresh cadets to the Starfleet Academy. Her tone changes to a more practical one. Somewhere in your life, you made a decision to become a Starfleet officer. That was the first step. You studied hard and you prepared for the entrance exams, and that was the second step. You took the exams and you succeeded. That was the third step thus far. In order to get where you are now, you had to work hard. In order to become a valid Starfleet member, you will have to work hard, much more so. And why? Because you have decided to dedicate a part of your life to serve other people in the United Federation of Planets by carrying out orders day to day. This means these people will depend on you with their lives. In other words, by applying to Starfleet Academy, you have expressed your desire to accept this responsibility and to perform to the best of your ability. Starfleet serves several purposes: exploratory, philanthropic, humanitarian, and if the need arises, also a line of defense of the allied worlds. Each of the three purposes I named requires a different skill set. Some of you will find out they lack some necessary skills and decide not to continue the studies. There is no shame in pursuing other opportunities in life more suited to one's nature. Some of you will find out that they are not ready yet, and some of you will return later, as was my case. In order to discover which of the aforementioned cases describes you, we will put you to difficult tests. It will be hard, harsh, and it will require all you've got. During these tests, do remember, the Starfleet teachers are here to serve you, to prepare you as much as they can. Be ready, and if you get out there. That's cool. I like that. Thank you for writing that in. That's a good speech. I enjoy that. I don't know if that's the best way to start this show, although it does remind me of the beginning of Patton. If you haven't seen Patton, General Patton comes out against a gigantic American flag and gives a speech, and it's a good one. So there you go. Thanks for writing in. I appreciate that. And I like seeing people's creativity. Steve Hubbard writes in, and Steve Hubbard is writing referring to Kate Corain. This was an article I read about an author who was using Goodreads and things to sabotage other authors' work. She had a 2-book deal to write these fantasy novels, and was attacking other authors she saw as competition. It was a terrible story, and she basically set her career. She had a 2-book deal. Who gets that? She set her 2-book deal up and might as well just put a flamethrower to it, like MacReady put a flamethrower to The Thing. That's what she did to her writing career. Poof, gone. Unbelievable. I don't understand it, but that's what Steve Hubbard's writing about here. Great job with your episode covering Kate Corain. As a new author myself, I found it appalling what she did. When the news broke, I was just floored by the stupidity. I did want to address the issue of the Hugos and the sad puppies. Man, there is way more to it than that dismissive article you read. It devolved into pure chaos, and the puppies were vindicated in proving exactly what they were claiming when the Hugo voters voted in a block, electing no award for the categories dominated by the puppies. The year of the wooden assholes and their treatment of editor Tony Weisskopf of Bean Books was wholly abhorrent. An incredible editor who definitely more than deserved her nomination. I wasn't published in the midst of all the Hugo's chaos, but Larry Correia long ago walked away from it. But honestly, if you want a deeper and more in-depth look at the puppy's history, I'd encourage you to reach out to Larry. He's available on X and Facebook, and he'll likely be more than happy to talk to you. Be warned, he won't pull any punches. I love watching your channel. I don't always agree with some of your positions, but that's the beauty of humanity. We don't always have to agree, and it's always nice when people can be civil and still connect via the positive things. Couldn't agree more. All the best to you, and may you and yours enjoy an incredible holiday season. Thanks for your time. Stephen Hubbard, author, A Conspiracy of Ravens. What a great title for a book. I love that. Well, Steve, thanks for writing in. It's hard to explain the sad and rabid puppies in the Hugo Awards, but there has been brouhaha, and there was brouhaha at this year's Hugos because of the self-censorship going on, because the Hugo Awards were set. They're usually given out at the World Science Fiction Convention every year, and this year they had one in China. And they were self-censoring. It's very interesting. But it's another adjunct to the culture wars that we've had going on. And you should all look into it. If you're a science fiction reader at all, look up the sad puppies and the rabid puppies, and it's very interesting. So Steve was referring back to Robservation's episode 911. So check that out, and if you want. This one comes from Rigel Thurston. As you can see, these are all letters from back in December. Greetings, lover of Star Trek, or lovers of Star Trek. I wrote a Trekmas carol that I want to share with you all. It is a jazzy piano and vocal production with lyrics that feature characters and scenes from old and new episodes. Uhura, Spock, Data, Picard, Captain Kirk, Harcourt, Fenton, Mudd, Bloodwine, Tribbles, Strange New Worlds, and more. Would you consider sharing it with your community? Warmly, Rigel, like the star. Rigel Thurston. Well, Rigel, you are in luck because I, as He-Man did before me, have the power. And I'm going to put it into the live chat so you guys can listen to it yourself. And yes, I will get to super chats and any tips shortly. This one, Preacher 6 Independent Film sent you a direct message. So this comes from Preacher 6. Hey, my friend, when I have my documentary about the tents in Hollywood live on the site, I would love to have your support. May I DM you a link to watch it? The site has many films and documentaries by independent filmmakers. It is a great way to support independent film. Full disclosure, I will make $2.25 out of the $5 you'll have to pay. This is like Netflix for independent film, but they actually split the revenue with creators. I will also premiere Preacher 6 on this site. Will you be part of my indie army? This is going to be a way forward for our independent films. I hope you join me. Support indie film. Well, 100%. Preacher 6 independent film. And that's where this comes from. And a link to watch it. This site, you didn't say which site it is, but hey, count me in. I'm unaware of this site, so give me more information. And I'm interested. Color me interested. This one comes from Tyson Raymeyer. I think it's Raymeyer. It is Raymeyer. Tyson Raymeyer. Salutations, Mr. Burnett. Over a number of your recent Robservations episodes, roughly 895 to 905, my apologies for the imprecision, you have mentioned unfriendly reactions that you have received over some of your perspectives regarding politics and international events. These reactions have ranged from the more passive subscription cancellations to the dismissive admonitions to stay in your lane and stick to entertainment to hostile. You may insert your own example here. For what it's worth, I would like to extend my moral support to you and the way in which you present your views. I repeatedly find that your shows and Robservations, Midnight Musings, Let's Get Physical Media are some of the more affirming, positive, and enjoyable environments that I encounter on the internet generally, and YouTube specifically. You consistently present your views reasonably and with explanation. Moreover, you not only routinely welcome voices of disagreement and dissenting views, but are also ready and willing to openly reconsider your opinions and statements in the face of new evidence or perspectives that you had not considered previously. In short, Mr. Burnett, you have the mindset and attitude of a genuine student, scholar, and intellectual. That's very nice. So from me to you, thank you for providing intellectually stimulating content and not taking the easy path of encouraging anger or fear, the lowest of low-hanging fruit, all of which lead to the dark side, as we see every day. Thank you for trying to speak to people's dreams and aspirations rather than to their resentments. Thank you for reminding us what the internet can be, a focal point of intellectual exchange instead of what it frequently is, a battleground for social, political, and culture wars. I'm one who often eschews the virtual environment, but I regularly tune in to you. In a time when our country and civilization seem focused on tearing themselves apart, when our fellow citizens are more interested in fighting than communicating, when our elected officials pursue office for publicity instead of policy, when our default reaction is cynicism instead of wonder, you are an example of upstanding and honorable online conduct. This is a public service that we are presently seeing far too infrequently. Thank you for serving our country in this fashion. Very truly yours, Tyson Raymeyer. Tyson, that's a very nice thing to say. One of the nicest things you could possibly say to me. I mean, people have asked me that a lot throughout my life about that outlook or disposition. And it's silly to say, but it probably came from a combination of watching Twilight Zone and Star Trek when I was a little kid and all the movies, that I watched and then the books that I read, because I've always thought of it as kind of a lifestyle choice. Like you have to choose, there's wonder all around us. I find wonder in something interesting. Take me anywhere. I've said it before. If you have an interest that's very niche, and like Susan Orlean, you take me to some orchid show, I'll go. I'll sit there and I will walk with you and look at your orchids for hours on end, as long as you clue me in and try and explain some of what it is that I'm seeing. I don't like to go to places and not get at least a little insight. I mean, I'm one of those guys who will read all the different things at a museum. When you go to an exhibit and they've got the different, I'll read all that stuff. Or I love the docent tours. But I think the funny thing is that you have to learn, kind of like Antonioni's movies. You have to teach yourself how to be engaged by the world. You do. It's something that people normally forget because they don't pay any attention to it. And I think that knowledge makes the world a much more interesting place to be. The more you know about stuff, doesn't matter what it is. I mean, when you go out into the world becomes a more interesting place. And you can never know enough stuff. There's always stuff to learn. And it's like when you go somewhere, the more you know about that thing, then it becomes really, really interesting. No matter where you go, there's something to learn. There's something to know. But most people are completely not interested, and I've often thought, and I'll tell you something, part of this came from, I think I've talked about this before, but when I was 10 years old in the 4th grade, one of my best friends, who I still know to this day, Jeff Swafford, as a kid, he was obsessed with public transportation. He loved trains. He loves buses. He loves aircraft. He loved cars, but he really liked big public transportation, like lots of people getting into things. And we grew up in Seattle. I'm from a place called Mercer Island, which is, don't hold it against me. It was different than it is now. I could never afford to show you. I'll give you an example. My parents bought the house that I grew up in 1964 on Mercer Island for $30,000. When my parents separated and my mom moved to Bellevue, my parents sold that house in 1988 for $160,000. So it went from 64, it was $30,000, to when we moved out finally in 1988, it was worth $160,000. That house, that same house, exact same house, this house looks the same. It's now worth over $2 million on Mercer Island because it's Mercer Island. Same fucking house. I could never afford to live in the house that I grew up in. So if you look into Mercer Island, Washington, there you go. So I could never afford to live there, but it's funny. But so Jeff Swafford, we had a really great public transportation system, the Metro bus system, and every 3 months, or was it 3 months or 4? It might be 4 months. They would release these fold-out bus schedules. And both Jeff's dad, my dad worked, and they didn't work together, but they worked in the same building, the Seafirst Bank building downtown. It used to be the tallest building in Seattle. It's not anymore. But they would have a big spindle, like a big kiosk thing that would spin around, and you could get every single, in the lobby of this building, you could get every single bus schedule. And every 3 or 4 months, Mr. Swafford would get all of the bus schedules and bring them home to Jeff. We were 10 years old, and Jeff would plot out these elaborate bus trips. Like you could buy a 50-cent pass and ride the bus all day. So we would go to the SeaTac airport because there was no kid. You could go anywhere. We'd go to SeaTac airport. We'd go to the Ballard locks and watch the ships go through the locks. We'd go to the waterfront. We'd go to the Pike Place Market. We'd go all over the city. And what it taught me was that there was something interesting everywhere you went. Everything was new. I hadn't seen this before. I haven't been there. And the speech that Matt Damon, Mark Watney gives in The Martian, at one point, he's talking about, he's sitting on a mountaintop looking down, and he's like, I'm the first person in all of human history to be here. Well, when I was a kid, I was the first person. It was the first time I had ever gone someplace. So everywhere we went was new, and it was interesting, and it was unusual, and you just see stuff. And it taught me the value of wherever I went. It was like, wow, this is cool. Like, I've never seen this before, and maybe that's what those adventures. And it was funny because I never thought when we did this that it was, we're 10 years old, and it was Jeff had meticulously planned it. And we're going everywhere. These little kids, we're going a lot of people's parents wouldn't let them go with us. I didn't know because we grew up next to each other. Like, I didn't know that was weird. Talk about free range kids. Today, I know people that are 20 that I wouldn't trust to go out on the kind of bus trips that we went out on as little kids. But it sort of instilled that sort of wanderlust and in me. And I think that's a really important thing. And I think that's what made me kind of the way that I am. It's a choice. You can choose to find wonder in the world. Yeah, the world is a horrible place and human beings are terrible. But I know that. If you look at our human history, it's littered with just horrible atrocities that we all commit against one another. But it's also full of great stuff. And we've done a lot of amazing things. Private, even though it's tipped over, a private company landed a lander on the moon. An American company went back to the moon for the first time since 1972. 52 years we haven't been back to the moon. Americans are on the moon. Now, okay, the thing caught its lander and it tipped over, but it's still working. It's still transmitting. So, might not be perfect. But hey, there you go. So, again, what a great letter. And I really appreciate the kind words. But, you know, I mean, I'm lucky to have while I'm not rich and famous, I'm still getting to make movies. And speaking of which, I'll give you a little taste. I showed this the other night. I'll show it again. People ask me to show this again. So as many people know, after Tango Shalom, I've produced another film with the director of Tango Shalom and our compatriots, a lot of the same production team, called The White Devils, which is a horror movie. And we were looking at it, and we needed to put some extra blood, make it a little bit more wet than it was. So we couldn't bring the actors back. So a couple months back, 3 or 4 months back, Vincent Guastini, the makeup effects artist, Vinny, he did things like he made the wings in Dogma, in Kevin Smith's Dogma. But he's done a lot of great work. Vinny came on board and did some great work for us. And because I kind of physically, my body physically resembles the actor, an actor gets whipped to death with a whip called the shambach, which is made out of rhinoceros hide, and they use this to whip blacks in South Africa. It's a horribly, awfully damaging whip. But this character dies by this whip. I won't explain why. But so I spent a day at Vinny Guastini's studio getting my back whipped to do these insert shots. They were second unit insert shots that we did way after the fact. And I'll show it to you. It's only the sequence is only 52 seconds long. And you'll notice at the end, that's my back. And it was a lot of fun to do. So here's a clip of me and the actors in the movie White Devils. So check it out. Took me days to get all the blood and the prosthetics off my back. But that was fun. So all the close-ups and the blood and the wounds, that's all me, baby. It's Vinny Guastini and me. So there you go. So in addition to being a YouTuber, I too have a movie that I've produced coming out. So that's kind of fun. Now let me jump in and see what you guys have to say. Okay. I still don't quite understand why this is happening, but my birthday is May 15th. But somehow somebody I don't know how it actually began, but started wishing me a happy birthday in the live chat. And they do this every day. They wish me a happy birthday every single day. So Irene Jobson says, happy birthday, Rob. Sends in a super chat. 1001 Johnny says, since this is a stream about letters, I just thought I'd ask about my voice letter. Oh, I keep forgetting to play your voice letter. I sent in. I enjoyed our membership chat today. Good sir. God bless. Good to see you, 1001 Johnny. Always a pleasure. Yes, I have your voicemail. You know what? I should have teed that up tonight, and I didn't. But I should have, and I'm sorry. Brandon Martin says, forgive me if this was addressed, but what is your opinion on the recent backlash toward Chris Stuckman's recent content? Ooh, that's a good question, Brandon. I was actually going to make an editorial video about this. Okay, so for those of you who don't know, quick recap. Chris Stuckman has been a movie reviewer. He's an author, and he made his movie Shelby Oaks, which he crowdfunded and got it done. kudos to him. He got it done within a year. And even when he needed to make more money, he was very upfront about it to take things like distant headlights that need to be removed. They can do that with CG and all that. He did very upfront, and he got it done. What I find really interesting about this whole situation, so a lot of people, what happened was Chris Stuckman, for those of you who don't watch him, I've been watching Chris Stuckman for years. He seems like a really nice guy. I don't know if I met him. I don't think I ever met him at Collider. I might have crossed paths, but I've been watching him for years. I've always liked Chris Stuckman. And when he was reviewing, he basically has said since he started making movies or making his movie, that he didn't want to come out and be as critical or review films the way he normally did. Now, here's what I would immediately... Chris Stuckman doesn't owe anybody anything. And in my mind, Chris Stuckman making a movie is like the ultimate... I was so proud that he did what he did. And whether the movie's great or not, he still went out and did it. I'm hoping it's great. But I'll tell you something. The first thing I think about when it comes to Chris Stuckman is he's made a movie. He made a movie with his audience who supported him and crowdfunded the film. And for a YouTuber who's been talking about movies for over a decade now, to make your own movie is to invite the knives to come out. There are people, he could make Lawrence of Arabia, and there's going to be people that hate him that he did that. So, first of all, kudos to him for doing that. And that he came out and said that he doesn't want to review a bad movie anymore. You have to understand, you can talk about movies till you're blue in the face. You can read about movies till you're blue in the face. You can watch movie punditry. You will never truly understand what goes into making a movie. You can intellectually understand it. You can wrap your head around it, but until you actually do it, it's like anything. As Kirk said, we learn by doing in Star Trek 2. You learn more. I learned more one day as a PA, a production assistant on Leatherface, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3, than I did in all the movies. I'd seen thousands of movies. There were things I didn't know about movie making that I learned in 10 minutes of being on a movie set. Well, Chris Stuckman's actually made a film. And here he's being criticized. He flat out came out and said, and by the way, for this video that he made, he was very critical of the studios. I mean, he was very critical of Sony too. He didn't come out necessarily and criticize Madam Web, but he certainly criticized the studio that made it. And here's the thing about people who are like, oh, Chris Stuckman's a shill. Chris Stuckman just wants to work in the Hollywood system. Let me tell you, I don't think Chris Stuckman does. I think Chris Stuckman he made a movie, and if it's good, he's going to go make another movie. I don't think he wants to work in the Hollywood system. I don't think anybody wants to work in the Hollywood system. What people want to do is they want to have autonomy. And Chris Stuckman, if his movie's good and he can do whatever he wants, there's all kinds of new ways to distribute your movie. If he can go to his audience, and if they like Shelby Oaks, he can do it again. Now, maybe he can't make a Marvel movie, but if you're a real filmmaker and his film came out great, he can go do that again. Filmmakers want to maintain their autonomy as long as possible if they're smart. These days, S.J. Clarkson, who directed Madam Web, her career as a filmmaker theatrically is dead. She's in director jail, and I understand why. She's a very esteemed TV director. She'll be fine, but her feature film career is over. She's not going to get hired to direct a movie anytime soon. And was that a good thing or a bad thing? Now, Chris Stuckman could come out. I would say this. I think Chris Stuckman took the right approach. I think when he criticized the studio, how did you allow this to happen? And I, like Chris Stuckman, blame Sony. Everybody else is getting a job. People want to get paid. They do whatever they can do. Morbius was mismanaged to a certain extent. I would say even Venom is not what it's supposed to be. Now you have Craven coming out. These people have not done their jobs. And you know what? Tom Rothman should know better. Tom Rothman, the man who made Elektra. Yeah, he made X-Men 1 and 2. He made X2 and Days of Future Past. Or wait, I don't know if he was still at the studio when Days of Future Past was made. But he went over to Sony. A movie like Madam Web, I'll dare say it. I'll flat out say it. A movie like Madam Web should not get made today. Madam Web should be much better than it is. And when you see one of the writers on the red carpet going, Madam Web doesn't have a backstory, so we could fill in and do whatever we want. I'm like, what the fuck, dude? Did you read the comics? Very interesting backstory there that you could have made a really interesting film out of. But no, you guys just decided to go your own way, which I don't understand. You know, Marvel is not directly adapting. Their best movies are not direct adaptations of comic stories, but certainly Captain America the Winter Soldier was completely inspired by Ed Brubaker's Captain America run. And if you go read Ed Brubaker's Captain America run, it's all there. Good stuff. You know, it's ridiculous that you're going to start adapting these comic book characters and like, yeah, you know, we're going to adapt the character, but we're just going to use that as a jumping off point. Why? What makes, I just don't understand why all around Hollywood now, more so than ever, the people that are making decisions at the studios are way too far removed from the actual process. People go, well, the studios wanted to control you. Who at the studios want to control their filmmakers? There's nobody there that knows how to make movies. You know, it's unbelievable. I saw this happen during Sugiharu's administration at Warner Brothers. What a fucking joke what they did to David Ayer's Suicide Squad. Because why? They got cold feet. David Ayer's Suicide Squad the executives, including Sugihara, was scared because they had an AT&T merger. People had money they wanted to make, and they were all scared that the approach they were taking with Zack Snyder, they second-guessed everything. They did stupid things, including let Suicide Squad be recut. Not James Gunn's. I'm talking about Suicide Squad, not The Suicide Squad. It's so stupid because the people that are running the studios do not know fuck all about making movies. You'd think they would. But you know what? These executives are interchangeable, whether they're working for Pepsi, whether they're working for some other company, you know, Intuit, whatever, Intel, wherever the hell they're working, they just go from place to place to place. And while people might know the Hollywood ecosystem, the people that actually make movies and then people that are in the business of Hollywood are completely on opposite sides of the fence. And the people that are calling the shots are the ones everybody wants to know or whatever. And the people that are trying to make these movies are completely at odds. And then you see things like, why does Joker 2 Folie à Deux? Why is Joker 2 $200 million? Why is Gladiator $300 million? I understand there was a strike. I get it. But give me a break, man. It'd be a lot easier if the people at the top go, and everybody should go watch Toho's video that they put up on the making of the visual effects of Godzilla Minus One. Now, I understand people go, Rob, blah, 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 you know, the Japanese pay each other pay a lot less. No, man, you watch that video, those people know how to make a movie. And they know how to make a movie. In America, if they made the exact same movie, if Godzilla Minus One was made in the United States, it would be $150 million. And by the way, what's interesting is Godzilla Minus One, look, I want to see Godzilla X Kong. I do. But if you look at Godzilla Minus One and you look at Godzilla X Kong, just the trailers, one cost 20 times what the other cost. Why? Watch the Toho, the behind the scenes. There's a lot of reasons, but I mean, anyway. So Chris Stuckman, the point I was trying to make is I think everybody was demanding, and I was even on a live stream. I was on Chris Gore's new show Versus on Monday, and everybody was coming down against Stuckman. And I get it. Like, Stuckman's got to be a movie reviewer. Why? He's now transitioned to making a movie. Chris Stuckman has evolved from being a YouTube pundit to being an actual filmmaker. And I would say that Chris Stuckman does not have to be anything anymore except being a filmmaker. And we talked about movies our whole lives. And some of us have made films. When you make a film, your perspective changes. And look, I still rip on Star Trek Discovery. God awful. That trailer for Discovery season 5, I'm like, really? Ugh, God, terrible. People are like, oh, I can't wait for your rants. I'm like, why bother? Hey, we're looking for a MacGuffin. You might as well, it might as well be a sword and sorcery story. What the fuck does it have to do with Star Trek? Oh, I can't stand that shit. And then they give you these meaningful conversations between Saru and Burnham, and you're supposed to go like, oh, it's so meaningful. No, it's not. Anybody can write those platitudes. That's become Star Trek trope cliche dialogue. Let's give it some meaning. Let's fly. Let's cry. How about that? So anyway, Stuckman, I respect the hell out of him, and I think that his piece he did on Madam Web, and he explained things from a very interesting perspective. He can do whatever he wants on his YouTube channel. There's no obligation. He did not like sign some covenant in blood with the movie reviewer gods that said you have to do movie reviews. And he's not being a paid shill. He's become a filmmaker. His perspective has entirely changed. He's learned something he didn't know before. He's living in a different world. He's expanded. And I hope his movie's good. God bless him. And I really am looking forward to seeing Critical Drinker's movie. Everybody's attacking Critical Drinker. They're like, it's not, I haven't seen anything like this before. What, if you didn't grow up in the 80s and watch all the canon action movies that Chuck Norris made, whether it was Delta Force or Invasion USA or Lone Wolf McQuaid or whatever the hell it was, it's not like these movies were treading all kinds of shocking new ground. The Drinker adapted his character that he's been writing novels about too. He's working in the lane that he chose to work in. The question is, I don't know based on the trailer if the movie's going to be great or not, but you know what? I want it to be great. I want to go into it, and kudos to the Drinker. He's putting his money where his mouth is too. And you know what? I respect anybody who does that. Whether they fail miserably or not, they gave it a shot. And that's all anybody can ask. And I think it's pretty damn cool. Sean Hoover says, Captain America Winter Soldier. 10 years, Rob. Can you believe it? The jewel of Phase 2, in my opinion. Now in Phase 5, all hope for saving the MCU rests in the crotch of Deadpool. What the fuck? How did we get here? The irony. The agony. I don't know, man. Look, I think Deadpool versus Wolverine is going to be fun and interesting, and I can't wait to see it, but I don't even think of it as an MCU movie. Deadpool and Wolverine are not in the MCU. Marvel is making it, sure, and maybe we'll get them in the MCU by the end or something, but I don't even think of it as an MCU movie. It's so weird to me. To me, Deadpool will be, the most interesting thing that I've heard about this movie that fascinates me is that the TVA that we see, that Tom Quinn, if you watch Spooks, aka MI5, who played Tom Walmsgab, well, I can't pronounce his last name, in Succession, but you've seen him in the trailer. He looks like he's running the Time Variance Authority. The most interesting thing I've heard is that the Time Variance Authority that we see in that Wolverine trailer or Deadpool trailer is not the Owen Wilson Time Variance Authority. It's the Time Variance Authority from the Marvel X-Men universe from Fox. And I'm like, that's cool, But again, this movie seems like one big gimmick. It might as well be Abbott and Costello meet the Wolfman or something, because it's completely a gimmick. I don't know where it's going to go. To me, the future of the MCU lies with however they're going to fix Captain America, Brave New World, and Thunderbolts. Those are the things I'm looking forward to see how they're going to fix that. Deadpool and Wolverine is an outlier, and it's an anomaly. I'm deliriously excited to see it. Don't know what it's going to be like. Have no clue. I've heard one joke in it. I've heard that there's one joke, and the one joke is a very, very good joke. It's a thing that happens to a person, and it's a fake out for the audience, and I laughed aloud when somebody told it to me. I'm like, I hope that's in the movie because it's really, really good. And I'm not going to say what it is, but you'll know it when you see it, and it's a lot of fun. And if that's what they're going to do for the whole movie, it's going to be wildly entertaining, and I can't wait. Darth Plato says, happy birthday, Big Papa R&B. I don't know what to say. Glenn Mark says, hi, Rob. I've a 3645 word short story. I suspect this may be too long to submit for your Imagination Connoisseur book project. It is not. The Imagination Connoisseur book project, which is going to launch. We're going to start for those of you who don't know, this was delayed. We are going to publish a book of short stories that I'm going to edit, actually with my brother, who's a professional editor, my half-brother, Jim Burnett, who's a published author himself. We're going to publish a book called The Imagination Connoisseurs, and it is going to be a book of short stories, 10,000 words or less. And the premise of the book is, tell me what an imagination connoisseur is. But you don't have to tell me. You can write a story that appeals to imagination connoisseurs. You can write a story about yourself, how you became an imagination connoisseur. It doesn't have to do anything. I'm leaving it totally open. It's an anthology of short stories underneath the banner of the Imagination Connoisseurs. That's the title of the book. People have submitted short stories already. Now, I will say this. The entry is going to be a little bit pricey, only because I looked into this, because we don't want people submitting a bunch of chat GPT fucking short stories. And we'll be able to tell right away. And we're paying my brother and my editor to read these stories and work on them and actually edit the book. So, anyway, we're going to start that. So get writing. And then we're going to crowdfund the actual book, because I want to publish a nice leather-bound, slip-cased, dust-jacketed book. So there you go. So there you go. You're right in the wheelhouse. Tom Jr. Jackson, our great moderator, says that clip was moist, Rob, and so was my back the entire time I was being shot. Wolverine Snicked became a member of this channel. Thank you, Wolverine Snicked. We had a great member call today. It was great to see everybody. We'll have one in 2 weeks. S Beam says 39 months of being a member. Woohoo! Guardians of the Galaxy turns 10 this year. 2. Rob, what does the inside lining of that jacket look like? Hail to the chat. Looking good, fellow imagination connoisseurs. It's just brown like this. It's a little dirty, and I believe it says Guess on the inside. The Guess logo, which I can take pictures for you if you want. So there is that. And let's see. I don't want to miss anybody. I want to see. I think I've got everybody. I think I got everybody there. And let me just check and see if I've missed anyone's. Oh, I did get a tip. I want to read the tip from James Watkins for $60. A $60 tip from James. James says, Mr. Burnett, this is James D. Watkins, and this tip is for an ad announcement for my script novelization called Cancellation Part 1. I sent you a revised script to your email just now. I saw that. I will get to that on my next show. I'll put up the link. Thank you for that. I'm happy to celebrate other people's work, especially when you tip me well like that. I'll put it up and make a big deal about it on the show. So I do appreciate you doing that. Tack sends in a tip and says, Tack says, happy birthday. Happy birthday, Rob. I don't know why this is so funny to me. I don't even know how this happened. My birthday's May 15th, and I guess I get to celebrate it all year round now. Tack says, happy birthday, Rob. Thank you so much for what you do to bring nerds together in the social media age. Your channel and opinions are a great source of entertainment, philosophy, and deep thought about the art we love. You mean a lot to us all. That's very nice of you. And the fact that you guys are going to celebrate my birthday all the time now. It's like when I was a little kid, you wanted to celebrate your birthday every day. And of course, that never happened until now, where you guys are making it happen on a daily basis. I thank you for that. What can I say other than thank you? You know how to make a guy feel special. 1001 Johnny sends in a tip and says, a simulation? Maybe it's actually tied to the walls of a cave and you only think you walk free. Everything you see is actually the shadow of an actual reality. What if the simulation is the creation of the God who said, I am, and we have yet to fully live life? That's very interesting. No, I mean, I think the simulation theory idea is intriguing. It is intriguing. And, it was one of the things I watched in one of these videos. I was saying this the other day, that's scary, is somebody was going down all the way down into DNA and base pairs and code and everything. And they were talking about the fact that when you get down to the nitty gritty of it, it looks like binary code, ones and zeros, digital code. It's literally computer code. And I was like, that's terrifying. But again, what would that matter? My life still matters to me, whether it's a simulation or not. I still enjoy my life. So it's interesting. It's crazy. I don't know. Ross sends in a tip. By the way, people ask, there's a tip link in the description below. Ross sends in a tip and says, do Nerdrotic and The Drinker detractors have any actual valid criticisms? Sure. If Hollywood's fortunes turned around, these people will be short of a business model. but never once have they ended their videos telling their viewers to be artificially angry. No, they have not. Well, and I'll tell you something else. I mean, look, when you watch Friday Night Tights, does it get spicy? Are people mean-spirited? I mean, that's what people do. They get together. It's like it's a raucous party vibe. And are they necessarily nice to people? No. Do they all call it like they see it? Yes. But I would say that, Gary's channel, whether you like Gary's channel or not, I've quite enjoyed he's got two, unless he's added more, but he has 2 editors working for him. And he's making these editorial videos. And Gary, he's not nice. He doesn't have to be nice, but he's very entertaining. And he's not wrong either. And they're making his editorial videos that he's dropping. I don't know if he drops them once or twice or 3 times a week. I think are pretty good. And I've really enjoyed them, and I've shared them. And then people get mad at me. They're like, I like Gary Piekler. I really like him. He's like a San Francisco a counterculture punk rocker. He's like, what San Francisco used to be like. I've met his lovely wife, and she's delightful too. And I really like him. And I like what he's done. I like the videos he's doing because they're actually pretty well researched. And are they I think a lot of them are funny, and sometimes I laugh more than I probably should. But I think it's good stuff. But a lot of people don't like that. You don't have to. If you don't like Gary's approach, if you don't like my approach, just don't watch us. Birds of a feather. But I do think what I really like about this whole online movie pundit community is I think for the most part, I like everybody. I like people's work. I really do. Brandon Martin sends in a super chat and says, where can I find the Chris Gore Versus show? Okay, it's on his channel. It's on the Film Threat channel. And it's just called Versus, like VER. It's like the word versus spelled. And it was a new show. I'll be on it again on Monday. We're going to be talking about Dune 2. I'm going to see Dune 2 tomorrow with Chris Gore and the fellas. I'm also going to see it on Friday again at Universal and IMAX. So that's pretty cool. So yeah, it's Versus, the word versus, like the Japanese film Versus. Weston sends in a super chat and says, I don't think these guys are interested in science fiction, but I think Sorkin could write a hell of a Trek screenplay and Michael Mann could direct the hell out of it. But we need science fiction lovers, right? Weston, I'm right there with you. Aaron Sorkin writing a Star Trek script, and Michael Mann directing it. I don't necessarily know if Michael Mann would direct a science fiction movie because he's very much interested. I mean, he's always trying to create peak verisimilitude. But that's that's what I've always wanted to see. To me, Star Trek the Motion Picture is my favorite Star Trek movie. Is it the best Star Trek movie? No, I'll give that to Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan has that pulp, swaggering villain, the pulp sci-fi element, and it's got a lot of meaning in it. But Star Trek the Motion Picture has much more of a science fiction bent, and especially if you watch the finalized 4K director's edition, the movie I think really sings, and I think it's good stuff. I've got more letters to read. This is an interesting letter. I am happy to see this letter. A lot of people are going to go, who is this person? Hi, Mike. This comes to us from Martin Jackson. Hi, Mike. I took a break from YouTube over the past year, and I've recently started watching the Burnettwork very regularly again, and I haven't heard anything about Willow Yang. She used to do her Star Trek letters and was a frequent visitor a year ago, and I've been back quite a while, and she's gone, or not even a mention of her name. Did she decide to leave the channel? Is she okay? I'm just asking out of curiosity. Thanks. Have a good Christmas and New Year. Regards, Martin. Martin, so for those of you who don't know, Willow Yang was a lovely, lovely girl who was doing her big studies up in Canada, and she was a molecular biologist. She is. She was getting published in journals and things like that, and she was one of the delights of this channel, and she wrote lots of great letters, and I'm sure she probably got busy. Maybe I said something that offended her. I don't know. I would hope she would write to me if I did. I loved Willow Yang. She was delightful. But I would imagine, she graduated from school and she's probably leading her life. And it happens. I mean, it's one of the realities of YouTube that it kind of bums you out. You don't know what's going on in people's lives. And if they're a part of your channel, like we lost a guy, I'll say his name again, Fernando Borrero. He was one of he lived on the East Coast, and he was a delight. And then he got sick, and he got cancer, and he passed away back in September. And, it's sad. Mark Chure was kind of our resident conservative. He was a conservative, and Mark C was a big YouTube subscriber. Mark C also passed away. He got sick and passed away. He drew this picture of me, and that's why I play it at the beginning of the show and every show. And what was interesting was his sister, after Mark passed away, and he was young, his sister found these drawings, and that was one of them. And I had a draw. He had sent me a scan of that drawing, but she actually sent me the actual drawing that Mark did of that picture of me. And it was a byproduct of being on YouTube that I wasn't expecting. I wasn't expecting that you'd have an audience that people would pass away. And that's life. I mean, it doesn't, people are like, well, of course people, but it's weird when you get to know them and you interact with people, and it happens. And so I hope Willow Yang is great. She seemed to be doing great. She did say that I'm sure life got in the way and she just had no time to watch YouTube. You know what? I should reach out and send her an email and see what's up. 'Cause I really like Willow Yang, and hopefully things are great. Or another person I really liked, but he got mad at me, was BL Alley. BL Alley, I believe, wrote a short story too for the short story competition. And I really liked him. And he was a funny guy. So I hope he comes back to the channel at some point too. But yeah, you really end up liking people, you like your audience, and you don't want to see them go away. And it sometimes it gets sad. Steve sends in a tip and says, just curious, have you ever checked out Twin Flicks? They're doing outstanding 4K comparison work. Yes, Paul, he's a fan of the channel. I met him through this channel. Hopefully he's going to come on Let's Get Physical Media. He was going to come on tomorrow, but was going to have Bill Hunt come on. I don't know if he can come on, but we'll see. But yeah, we got to do a collab with Twin Flicks. Paul's doing an excellent job comparing Blu-rays to the 4K releases. He's doing a terrific job, and I really like his channel. He's doing good stuff. Ross sends in a tip and says, if anything, in terms of creative choices, I think the Fandom Menace folks are too nice. The Netflix anime adaptations, which is just live action moments from the cartoons, defeats the point and is so stupid to cast a 55-year-old woman in a video game adaptation. Are you talking about Borderlands? Kate Blanchett, she's a little too old, and Kevin Hart, not exactly, doesn't meet that character. It's strange. Coach sipping Jamba Juice out of a straw sends in a super chat and says, who is your favorite Bond, and what is your favorite Bond film? For me, it's Sean Connery and From Russia with Love. Well, Sean Connery is my favorite Bond because that's what I grew up with, and I think that From Russia with Love is the closest the Bond film franchise came to Fleming's novels. I think From Russia with Love is a great... What's interesting to me is From Russia with Love is a great Cold War spy thriller. Even if it wasn't a James Bond movie, I think it'd be a great spy movie. It really was. I mean, it really captures that early 60s Cold War vibe. It's really good. And I always tell people to watch it because I think From Russia with Love it's a great Bond film, and it's just a great movie. I prefer, only because I started watching Bond when I was a little kid, I mean, I really like Goldfinger, but Goldfinger's got that. It started pushing into that goofy territory. But I love Goldfinger. And Thunderball, while it's a little lethargic, I still love Thunderball quite a bit. I mean, I love the Connery Bond films with the exception of Diamonds Are Forever. Yeesh. You Only Live Twice has some spotty effects work. And I really love On Her Majesty's Secret Service. And my favorite Roger Moore Bond film is Spy Who Loved Me because it was the first James Bond movie I saw in a theater. Big widescreen epic after the two first Roger Moore films were a little flat. They were literally they were not widescreen movies. So Dr. No, From Russia with Love, and Goldfinger were, I don't know if they were 1:6:6. I think they were 1:6:6. So basically the British Academy ratio. It's not really a little bigger than Academy ratio. And then Thunderball, You Only Live Twice, On Her Majesty's Secret Service, and Diamonds Are Forever were widescreen, big widescreen epics, like Panavision 235:1. Then Live and Let Die, A Man with a Golden Gun inexplicably went back to that lesser aspect ratio. And then Spy Who Loved Me and all the movies subsequent to Spy Who Loved Me have been big widescreen epics. But Spy Who Loved Me is my favorite Bond film. I'm a Moonraker apologist. I really like For Your Eyes Only. I do not like View to a Kill. And I like Living Daylights is my favorite Dalton. GoldenEye is my favorite Pierce Brosnan. And Casino Royale is my favorite Daniel Craig. But overall, I think that the Daniel Craig Bond run, it started strong, and I'm a quantum apologist. And while Skyfall is beautifully made and made $1 billion, it was a Dark Knight ripoff in a way. And Spectre and No Time to Die, I just can't abide those movies. I only saw No Time to Die once. To be fair, I should watch it again. I just, Anyway. Ross asks me, have you ever done your Myers-Briggs type index? I've always been curious. Never seriously. I should do that, though. I should do that. That's a good idea. I should do it live. Can you do that? Can you take that test live on the show? I take a Briggs-Myers test. Then I couldn't lie. Scott Bartholomew says, you need to do a discussion of the Prisoner TV show. Scott, Az and I reviewed, we did 18 episodes reviewing 17 episodes of The Prisoner, but we did 18 episodes. They're on this channel. We did a 6 of 1 show. 18 of them. We reviewed every episode. We did that. You should go back and watch them. Because they were pretty fun to do. So, yeah. Now, let me get back to more letters. That was a great letter about Willow Yang. This is... that was something that isn't a letter that was related to business, not a letter. This one comes from Eric Gant. Eric Gant. Good evening, Rob. Way back in 2020, there was a contest which was held during your episode with Paul Jenkins, and I was one of the lucky winners. After allowing for possible delays resulting from random life events and later from the introduction of the pandemic into our lives, I reached out to the Burnettwork a couple of times to see if there was any update on this, but none of my inquiries were answered. That's weird because I know Paul sent out those books. I will find out. Yeah, you got the letter that we sent to you. I don't know if we got... You know what? I will talk to Paul about that. And I will forward this to him and make sure that he gets it so you can get your book, which is good. And let's see. This is Simon Arch writes in. Simon Arch says, hi, Rob. I've been meaning to write to ask you about your axiom. Never put your universe above your characters or your story. On the surface, I want to agree with it, but as I've thought about it, the more it drives me nuts. What exactly do you mean by universe? Now, if you mean the fictional construct of a world or a universe in which the story takes place and the characters inhabit, then I really can't agree with the axiom because something about it doesn't fit well with me, and let me give you my reasoning. How many times have we been watching or reading something to have it contradict itself several episodes or books down the line? It takes a month to ride from Castle McCastle Face to Port McPorty, but 2 seasons later, this guy's ran the distance on foot during the commercial break. Oh, yes. How long did it take Robert Baratheon to go from King's Landing to Winterfell? I hear ya. Maybe it's something to do with our detail-obsessed nature as sci-fi fantasy fans. J.K. Rowling said before she first published that she thought if Harry Potter had any chance of success, it would appeal to obsessives, to people who enjoy every little detail about the world because she had every little detail. The Expanse, from what I understand, began as a world-building project for a role-playing game, then a computer game before the writers decided to use it as the setting for their own novel series. Tolkien made his world on the basis of the languages he invented. In James Cameron's Avatar, all the plants and animals have a Na'vi name, English name, and a Latin name. In Avatar: The Last Airbender, the inhabitants of each country have their own magic abilities based on their environment. Add to all that, the concept of the supplementary map has been a staple of fantasy literature since Treasure Island, maybe even before. So, where am I going with this? Like many others, I found my interest in the sci-fi fantasy products out there to be waning. Anything presented as new, I now regard with skepticism. There's only so many times you can invest your interest into something. Because of this, I've started to think that maybe the only way to get the kind of sci-fi fantasy that I want is to make it myself. By this, I do not mean fan fiction, more like a homebrew of everything I enjoy. The seductive thing about fan fiction is that the universe is already there. All you need to do is add characters and play. You don't own it either. It makes it comfortable to create knowing the parameters of the world. With that in mind, I thought maybe I can apply that to my original fiction. I can make a science fiction universe and maybe a fantasy universe in which I could tell any story I want and populate it with whatever characters pop into my head. Then I get tripped up by your axiom. I know there's a danger getting lost in the world building, but I'm realizing that the story, character, and universe are like a holy trinity, and you need all three equally or the fiction falls apart. The addendum. We have an addendum. It occurred to me that never put your universe before your characters and stories might not refer to a fictionally constructed universe at all. I often hear you use this axiom when there is news or rumors that a studio is banking on something being a success because they want sequels, spin-offs, theme parks, and merchandise up the wahoo. And this is all before the initial product has been released, which has never made any sense to me. When you look at the successful products out there, rarely are they ever believed in before they become the icon of pop culture. If this is the case, then maybe the axiom should be never put your ambition before your character's story or universe. And that is from Simon. Simon, what I mean is, and I'm absolutely referring, it really happened with the Dark Universe. Tom Cruise, starring in Alex Kurtzman's The Mummy, was going to be the beginning of the Dark Universe. They had Johnny Depp, they had Russell Crowe, they had all these actors, and they were going to do a reboot and have the Monsterverse, the Universal Dark Universe, which was also going to be not to be confused with Warner Brothers Kaiju Universe, but they were going to revisit all of Universal's classic monsters in new iterations. And of course, the Mummy movie didn't work out. I think Dracula was 2000 or something, or whatever it was going to be the first one, and it didn't work out. And my feeling, it always comes to, like you just said, the planning of the universe. It's like you can't set out to make a cult movie. A cult movie like the Rocky Horror Picture Show, it just happens. And a lot of people have tried to recreate that success. But pick whether it's Phantom of the Paradise, whether it's Rocky Horror, any movie that's considered a cult film for whatever reason, I consider Stone Cold to be a cult movie. I love Tough Turf. You know, I would never tell somebody that they should watch Tough Turf and love it as much as I do, but hey, it's kind of a cult movie. So is To Live and Die in L.A. in a way. It was never very successful, and I love it. I love it so. But what I'm saying is that Hollywood now, from a business decision, they look at Marvel, and they saw how successful Marvel was. So all of a sudden, everybody wants to do what Marvel did. The problem is nobody wants to do the work. And like you said, when you're creating fiction, especially a fantasy or science fiction world, you have to work, you have to create your world in tandem with your characters. That's a different thing because, you know, yeah, you might have a series of books that you want to write, but you still have to make one book that's great. It has to be great. Everything about that book. So world building and creating your universe for fiction, like a novel or even a movie that you're making, like The Matrix. the Wachowskis had to create their universe because when they made the first Matrix, they were looking forward to making more than one, but they needed to make the Matrix itself work. And so, yes, you need to create a great universe, but I am speaking strictly about how Hollywood is always looking at these things, IP, from a business perspective. And they're like, we're going to make 10 movies. You can't do that. You have to make one thing that's successful. Remember, George Lucas thought he might do the Journal of the Wills or make many Star Wars films, but he had to make one movie that worked. And if it didn't work, okay. But if the one movie works, then you can do whatever. I read something today. I would dare say that while people still watch Star Wars and people love Star Wars, there's a lot more bad Star Wars now than good Star Wars, at least filmed. And I would dare say Star Wars and Empire Strikes Back are two of the great fantasy films ever made. Everything that comes after Star Wars and Empire, everything is a step down. All of it. All of it. As much as I enjoy Rogue One doesn't exist without Star Wars. And while I like Rogue One and I love Andor, they're fine, but I don't think that anything, even Return of the Jedi, doesn't hold a candle to Star Wars and Empire, especially when you watch them all back to back. The performances, the visual effects, the cinematography. Now, I do like the rescue of Han Solo, and I like the confrontation in the Emperor's throne room at the end. But the rest of the movie, who cares? It's inconsequential. The only thing that matters in that movie is rescuing Han Solo and Luke confronting the Emperor. And yeah, the space battle's cool, but we already had a space battle in the first Star Wars. It's not like anyone thought they couldn't blow up the Death Star. They did it before. I've never understood. Everyone loves, because it's their first Star Wars movie in the theater. My first Star Wars movie in the theater was Star Wars. Changed my life because there was nothing like that ever before. And if you were there at that ground zero moment, it was a watershed moment in fantasy cinema. There's been nothing that's come close to what Star Wars was like. I mean, there are things that I've liked, like I thought The Matrix and Jurassic Park were watershed moments, but they didn't change the idea of what an entire genre could be. Because we'd seen Tron in 82. We'd seen The Lawnmower Man. We'd seen Johnny Mnemonic. We'd seen War Games. I mean, it's not kind of the same thing, but, we'd seen these things before. So when we got to The Matrix, it was just the best iteration of that thing. But Star Wars was a complete game changer. It changed the entire genre of science fiction and fantasy cinema forever. Because no one had ever seen anything like it. And I think that we all love Star Wars, but in my mind, there's only two really great Star Wars movies. Star Wars and The Empire Strikes Back, and that's it. Not A New Fucking Hope. It wasn't called that when it came out. I know people get pissed because everyone loves Star Wars. Like, you can't criticize Star Wars. Star Wars and Empire are in a class by themselves. They're here, and everything else is lesser than. So, but that's what... You can't think that your universe... You have to concentrate. And a novel's different. I mean, if you want to have a fantasy world, you have to come up with all that and make it work. But with movies, what I mean was never put your universe, meaning don't plan your cinematic universe before you've planted your flag. You need to make a good movie. If Iron Man wouldn't have worked, there would be no Marvel Cinematic Universe. They knew they wanted to make a universe, but they also knew they had to make Iron Man 1 work, and it does. It works really, really, really well. And once it worked, then they could make that work. So that's where I'm coming from. Here comes a letter. Oh, this comes from Marcello Sakuma, who's written to me before. Dear Mr. Robert Burnett, greetings from Kyoto. I'm here to show my appreciation for your time on reading my letter and to appease any questions you may have about our culture. My subjective point of view of this society should never alter the love and respect anyone has for it. My own critic of the Japanese comes from a place of love. My father was Japanese. My boyfriend is Japanese. My whole adult life was spent here. I have nothing but love invested in this place, and as I pointed out to you, I would prefer if the Japanese could revert. So what I should say is that he wrote a really interesting letter about the Japanese becoming woke before we did in a very interesting way, different than us, but how it's limited their culture. And his father was Japanese, but then he has a restaurant in Japan. I took a look on your chat, and they seemed confused. They took the meaning of the word woke quite literally. I thought that my joke, for woke's sake, was enough to make the critic open for understanding, but the humor failed. I'm sorry. Some deemed my letter false historically, which baffled me. I'm a chef, not a PhD in history writing a book. I gave you my humble opinion about my personal experience and facts. In my culture, yet some in the chat took it to be a very harsh, contradictory way, and what a mess the internet truly has become. Although a lengthy letter, it was not meant to depict the whole story of Japan, just to link the parallels to what was going on in the United States, and there is much more I have not touched upon. I guess the only way to fix this is for you to come here, bring your girls, and visit my country. No jokes, you'll love it. I wanted to go to Japan my whole life. Unfortunately, I'd have to take like $100,000 to buy all the die-cast Soul of Chogokin robots and model kits I'd want. I know you do not like the word woke. I used it just as a bridge to connect similarities in oppressing behavior. I honestly do not believe the US of A will ever come to a point where the Japanese had reached, but never say never. Some updates. So I live by a theater called Harkins, and they're a theater chain that I had never experienced in Southern California until I lived out here. Some updates. The Harkins family visited my place yet again last Saturday, but we had not talked about the idea of using the screens for YouTube gatherings. It was his ex-wife's birthday, and the table was focused on making her happy. My offer to look for stuff for you remains always open, as long as you give me detailed directions on the condition and quality of your purchases. I will make sure to send you pictures and videos of the toys after Laserdisc shenanigans, as you may decide to acquire the right objects. I'm in Kyoto, so close to Osaka and Kobe. Purchasing things from Tokyo might be a problem. Congratulations for the 900th episode, and thank you for allowing me to be a part of it. Best regards, Marcelo Sakuma, owner of Vivario Portuguese Cuisine. And that is in Kyoto. So thank you for that. I appreciate that. I didn't realize you'd written in another letter. So thank you. I will email you and keep in touch. And this is a guest invitation to be on a podcast. So I believe that these were letters that I had not got to, and now I'm caught up. Let's see. Thomas Logan writes in. Oh, wait. Nope. I haven't gotten there yet. Ross sends in a tip and says, do a quick and easy... Migs, while you are tired and reading $3 super chats, bet you are an ENFP. Okay, well, you know what? That's interesting. I've never, let's see. Briggs-Myers test. Okay, the Briggs-Myers test. I could, like right now, since you just sent me in, free personality test. Personality test of Briggs-Myers. Let's see if I can do this. Do I have to pay for this? Is it something I have to pay for and put in my... The Type Finder personality test. Well, I don't know if this is the Briggs-Myers test. This is the Truity test. Well, let me look and see if I can find Briggs-Myers type. Oh, it's there's the Myers-Briggs company. So I'm going to go to the Myers-Briggs company. Do I have to pay for this? Learn what makes you you. Take the Briggs-Myers test assessment. Well, is this a long test? Okay. Since you asked, and it would be kind of fun, and it is Saturday night. Wait a minute. If it's Saturday night, let's see. I got one of my Knob Creek Old Fashions. If I'm going to take a Briggs-Myers personality test live on the internet, let's see. So I have to be honest. Okay. Let me call this up and I'll put it on the box so you guys can see what this is all about. Okay. So let me put this. I just deleted. By accident I just deleted a shot instead of. God damn it! I don't want to do that. Why did I do that? All right. Let's see. I'm going to edit the shot. I'm going to bring this up. This is going to. Am I going to embarrass myself? Like if I do this on camera? Well, if I do, what the hell, right? Let's embarrass myself. So, Safari, we're going to go to official Myers-Briggs test. Okay, let me just call this up, and hopefully this isn't, I'm going to accept it. It's a new perspective on you. Build a foundation for growth. Okay, since you've asked me to do this, I don't know, how long is this going to take? Is this going to be like some, well, we'll see, I guess. We'll find out. Receive a code for one of our product, Briggs-Myers test. Briggs-Myers test online for personal, assessment plus, am I going to have to pay for this? Yeah, I can't do this. It's $60. Purchase for myself, purchase as a gift. You know what? I'll do this soon. This is a good idea, but I thought it was going to be free. Why would I think that? I'm an idiot. It costs money. So I'll do it another time because I think it's hilarious. I want to take the Briggs-Myers test and find out what kind of a person I really am. I think that would be a lot of fun, especially if I did it live. So we'll see what happens. So Ross, it's a good idea. Thomas Logan says Deadpool and Wolverine are searching for the Molecule Man in a universe where Cassandra Nova killed her twin Charles Xavier in the womb and rules supreme. That's cool. I'd watch that. I love it. I guess, I'm going to open this anyway. I would love it if Cassandra Nova, because Cassandra Nova was introduced in New X-Men. And I love Cassandra Nova. Is that that's a really interesting idea. Why are they searching for Molecule Man? And, but, I don't know. And what are they supposed to do? But it'll be interesting. I hope there's more to it than just that. We'll see. Jay West says, happy birthday, Rob. Should Disney make a deal with Sony for live action rights to Spider-Man and let Sony keep the movie animation rights? Man, I don't know. I'm perplexed by what Sony's doing with their live action movies. They made a vampire movie, but then they chickened out about the blood. I mean, they had an Academy Award winner playing Morbius, and it's, what were they trying to do? I honestly, it was perplexing. I don't know. Shake this up a little bit. Ross, I don't know. Should they? I mean, their animation Into the Spider-Verse and Across the Spider-Verse are so good that the live action movies baffle me. I don't know if they have to make those things. Somebody said, well, they have to keep making things to keep the rights. Yeah, but they don't have to make them bad. I just think they don't know what they're doing. I don't know. It's a mystery. Irene Jobson says $2 for the Briggs-Myers test fund. I'm not going to pay $60. I got to go drink with Chris Gore tomorrow. It's a thin margin I live on. Ross says, story test. Does Lord of the Rings have a Deus Ex Machina, or does the story have a bad ending? Do the same with Jurassic Park. Apologies about sending in a question like this so late. I just had fun thinking about it in the last day or so. Well, okay. For those of you who have not read Tolkien, The Lord of the Rings does not necessarily end well in the book. So people, when they go home to the Shire, Saruman and Grima Wormtongue have basically turned the Shire into hell, and after all that, the one ring is destroyed. They still have to deal with the scouring of the Shire. That's literally the end of the Lord of the Rings, and they could never do that. They couldn't do that in a movie. After you watch 3 movies, you can't go to have the scouring of the Shire. So I think when you're talking about Deus Ex Machina, that they throw the One Ring in and what the Eagles, I'm not sure. I mean, I think the end of Lord of the Rings is absolutely earned, because the characters have fought their way through all of this and triumphed. So I don't think so. I don't think so. I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think so. So, yeah, but that's an interesting question. I'm curious why you think that it is that. So, but I'm curious. It's an interesting question. 1001 Johnny just sent me a $30 tip and wants me to take the test. No, I can't. Okay, I'll tell you what. You know what? I'll make it a show if I'm gonna, because I want to set it up and I don't want to do it on the fly. So I will do it in the next couple days. I will take the test because you demanded it, and I will use all of your money. It's halfway paid for already. So you guys have already done that. Darth Plato says, "Do the lasers thing, Rob. It's the weekend." Oh, okay. What is that? I think is the lasers thing. Do you have to do the devil horns? Is that this? Yeah. I don't understand. This wasn't a software update. I mean, for those of you who are Mac people, that why do they do that? You know, first of all, you put your thumb up. It does that. Why? I don't know. If you do thumbs down like this, you know, is it thumbs down? I think it rains. Why? And then what is it? You do two thumbs up? Fireworks. Ooh. And then balloons come. Is that I don't remember what is the I always know it'll happen at some point when you gesticulate and something like that. The balloons come. Why they did that, I don't know. I mean, I've been having I was in a serious pitch meeting for this animated project that a friend and I have been working on for quite some time, and it was a really great pitch meeting at very high level. This was just last week, and the balloons went up. It's like, come on, man. Oh man. But anyway, I don't know why they did that, but it's funny. It never ceases to put a smile on your face, right? So Darth Plato, I did the lasers thing. Thomas Logan said, Emma Corrin, The Crown, is playing Cassandra Nova. Is that true? Okay, you're spoiling the shit out of this movie, Thomas. I don't want to know anything about it. I've been keeping away from the spoilers. Other than the fact that the spoilers that I've heard are from people that actually have worked on the film, not the plot. They've just told me I don't want to know. I know way too much. No, I don't want to know that. Cassandra Nova's cool though, although she's supposed to be like an old crone. So, anyway, Dan Candy asks, my favorite Bond henchman. My favorite Bond henchman. Gosh, that's a good one. Who is my favorite Bond henchman? I really liked Xenia Onatopp from GoldenEye. I don't know. I mean, Jaws was fun, but Jaws is goofy. I don't necessarily and I love the Chinese guy in Moonraker, the judo master that destroys the glass factory, the art place. But you know what? I mean, do I have to say Odd Job? I mean, it probably is Odd Job. It really probably is. Only because I love Goldfinger, Is Red Grant a henchman, or would Robert Shaw's Red Grant be a henchman? Rosa Klebb, man, there's a lot of them. I don't know. I'd have to think about that. Sonny Dominguez says, I'm smoking weed. Bullet on the Rocks is in my hand, and I'm watching you. I turned 43 on Thursday. Happy birthday. A friend asked me what I wanted for my birthday. I chose a movie marathon. Hard Boiled and Almost Famous are on the list. What a great... Okay. Hard Boiled, Almost Famous. You got to watch the long version of Almost Famous. Those are two movies that I love. Hard Boiled, Almost Famous. Wow, that's a tough one. Hard Boiled, Almost Famous, and Hard boiled. The Hunt for Red October. I don't know why. I just love that movie. I don't know what it has to do with that, but you're turning 43. Hard boiled, Almost Famous, and The Hunt for Red October. Those are three wildly different movies. And but I would end with Almost Famous, because Almost Famous is about the rest of your life. And I would start with Hunt for Red October, go to Hard Boiled, and then go to Almost Famous. But I don't know. It doesn't have to be Hunt for Red October. It could be something totally different. Because Almost Famous and Hard Boiled can't be more different. I think it's great though. Ross says, I believe Lord of the Rings has a bad ending. Now I'm going to take a little drink. By the way, I should be a shill for these things. Normally I hate pre-made cocktails. I hate them. These are really good. These Knob Creek drinks, they're 40 proof. They taste really good, and they have like espresso martinis, and they're pre-made. They've got Manhattans. I've only tried the espresso martinis, but these old fashions are banger. I really should be. It's horrible not to pour it over ice, but man, one of these things will get you, as Taylor likes to say, lit. So there you go. Ross. Okay, Ross says, I believe Lord of the Rings has a bad ending. The Fellowship believe Frodo is uncorruptible by the ring, but evil triumphs over good, and he gives in to the end. But the world is saved when evil destroys evil, when Gollum gives in to his obsession. Well, okay. I guess you could look at it that way, but here's the thing. I would say this. You have to look at the fact that the relationship that Frodo has with Sam, that's also, they've built it up, and Sam is there he is there to save Frodo. He can't carry the ring. And Sam knows that this was not going to be an easy journey. And when they get to the Crack of Doom, when they get to Mount Doom and they go into it, that's where Sam is going, not just saving him from Shelob, but that's where Sam has to be, and their friendship carries through. I don't think it's a Deus Ex Machina. I don't believe that. And the thing about Gollum is, and when Gollum finally has it, Gollum is a character that he too has gone through this journey, and all he ever wanted, he wanted the One Ring. His mind was gone. He was corrupted, and in the end, You have to look at, in the movies at least, you have to look at Gollum's end as something joyful. He gets back. The only thing that meant his whole life was over. Hundreds, if not thousands of years corrupted by the ring. He gets this thing back, and in a way, he's free. He's let go. So I don't think it's a bad ending. I think the fact that Sam is the hero of Lord of the Rings, of that, and yes, but the thing about Frodo was not incorruptible. He was not a perfect soul. That's why he needed Sam from the very beginning. They needed each other. They never would have made it to the Crack of Doom if the two of them hadn't gone together. And I think that's what's so great about that movie. Glenn Mark sends in a super chat from New Zealand and says, you could save the Briggs test for your 1000th episode. You know what? I got to figure out, how long is the Briggs test? Do we have to take it for like hours? I have no idea. Like, what do I have to do? And do you have to wait for the results, or do they just tell you what the results are? I got to find out. I really, when I took it, I remember taking it a long time ago, but somebody gave it to me to take, and I didn't take it very seriously. But I should do this, because now what a fun thing to do. And I'm perfectly willing to accept whatever, unless I tells people I have borderline personality disorder or something like that. Ross says, I wasn't going to bring it up, but since the chat are fans of the idea that the MBT test is free, go to 16personalities.com. Oh, well, is that true? I'll see. Let's check it out. But I thought you wanted me to take the Briggs Okay, well, if it's free, I mean, I just don't, have to put in a credit card or do whatever. And let's see. Well, I'll put it in here and see what it comes out. Let's see. Let's see what happens. 16personalities.com. What does it have to say? Wow. Okay. Team assessments. See what others say. Take the. All right. Okay. Since everybody. Well, you've sent me all the money, but you know what? I still will take the Briggs-Myers test since people have sent me money. I don't want to pocket your cash and not have you not get something for it. So here we go. All right. If you guys want me to do this, then I'll do it. Patrick Stewart sends in a $50 super chat. It says, for the Briggs-Myers test fund, I enjoy hearing your thoughts on movies and TV and physical media. Thanks for all you do. Well, that's very nice of you. Let's see how this works. Okay, everybody. I think that you can see it, right? So we're live here, and take the test. Okay? Free personality test. Be yourself. Okay, here it goes. So let me here we go. This is wild. Okay. So here we go. You regularly make new friends. I agree. I do. I like people. You spend a lot of your free time exploring various topics that catch your interest. Agree. I do. Seeing other people cry can easily make you feel like you want to cry too. Yeah. You often make a backup plan for a backup plan. Unfortunately, not all the time. So I probably should. You usually stay calm and even under a lot of pressure. I agree with that. You kind of have to when you make movies and stuff. At social events, you tend to stick with people you know rather than introducing yourself to new people. No. I totally disagree with that. I go to a party to meet people. What's the point of going to a party? You enjoy setting specific and measurable goals for yourself. I agree, 100%. You're very sentimental. I agree with that too. You like to use organizing tools like schedules and lists. I do, but I don't do it enough, as much as I should. So I agree, but I don't do it as much. So I like it, so I'm going to bring it down there. Even a small mistake can cause you to doubt your overall abilities and knowledge. No, I totally disagree with that. I make mistakes all the time. You feel comfortable just walking up to someone you find interesting and striking up a conversation. Yes, I agree. I do that all the time too. You are not too interested in discussions about various interpretations of creative works. I don't know, everybody. How do I answer that? You're not too interested in discussions about various interpretations of creative works. Oh, well, got to disagree with that one. Facts and logic drive your actions more than emotions do. I would agree with that, but emotions drive it too, so I'm not going to give it the full agree. I'm gonna go a little bit down here. I think I'm doing this right, yeah? You usually prefer just doing what you feel like at any given moment instead of planning a particular daily routine. I'm going to disagree with that. I like having a plan as much as I like having free time, so I'm going to disagree with that. You rarely worry about whether you make a good impression on people you meet. No, I'm going to disagree with that. You know what? You rarely worry about. I don't worry about it. Yeah, I never worry about it. I want to make a good impression, but I don't worry if I do or not. I don't. You enjoy participating in team-based activities. 100%. I love them. 100% agree. You enjoy exploring diverse cuisines and uncommon dishes. Okay, I'm going to have to admit, I'm not a great adventurous food eater. There's a few things I like to put in my mouth, but not, food, I need to be a much more adventurous. I know I'm not good at it. I'm reticent to do so. So I'm gonna disagree, but I've got to be honest, but I want to be a more ambitious eater. Helping others succeed brings you more happiness than your own achievements. I would agree with that. Yeah, I would agree with that. I like seeing, and anybody that can tell you that I've always been very supportive of, like Chris Stuckman tonight. You often see metaphors and deeper meanings in everyday occurrences. 100%. 100%. That's why Amelie is one of my favorite movies. You are prone to worrying that things will take a turn for the worse. No, I don't worry about that. I just assume they will, but I don't worry about it. I agree. You enjoy solitary hobbies or activities more than group ones. No, I like group ones, but I like solitary hobby ones too. More than group ones. No, I disagree with that. I like them both. You do not consider yourself an artistic type. I do. I totally agree with that. I disagree with that. You tend to view decision-making based on feelings as less effective. I would say I agree. But sometimes you got to go with your gut. So I'm going to bring, I agree, but not, You prefer to do your chores before allowing yourself to relax. I'd like to agree with that, but I don't entirely. So, soft disagree on that one. Next, you find solving problems more important than avoiding hurt feelings. I totally agree with that. You tend to avoid drawing attention to yourself. Come on. I disagree with that. Your mood can change very quickly. No. No, I keep a hold on my mood pretty much. Yeah. You find it challenging to be patient with people who do not share your level of efficiency or knowledge. No. I disagree with that. You often end up doing things at the last possible moment. Okay, I'm doing this in a public environment right now, so I'm going to agree with that. I often end up, that's true, because I'm always doing too many things at once. Complex and novel ideas excite you more than simple and straightforward ones. Absolutely agree. 100%. 100%. Next. You usually prefer to be around others rather than on your own. No, I like being on my own just as much as I like to be around others. So, I don't prefer it. I don't. So I'm going to disagree. You become bored or lose interest when the discussion becomes highly theoretical. No way. Totally disagree. I love when things get theoretical. You find it easy to empathize with a person whose experiences are very different from yours. Totally agree. You usually postpone finalizing decisions for as long as possible. No, I disagree with that. Sometimes I make decisions on the fly. You rarely second guess the choices that you have made. I agree with that. But sometimes I'll softly disagree or agree with that. After a long and exhausting week, a lively social event is just what you need. Yeah, I need a lively social event all the time. Right? You enjoy going to art museums. Agree. You often have a hard time understanding other people's feelings. I agree with that. Sometimes I'm not too, yes. You like to have a to-do list for each day. I'd like to, but I don't. So I'm just disagree. You rarely feel insecure. I agree. I don't usually feel insecure. You avoid making phone calls. No. Only sometimes. No, I disagree with that. But I'm not going to go full on because sometimes you don't want to make those hard calls. So I'll disagree a little bit. When faced with unfamiliar problems, you prefer innovative solutions to... I hope all of you are taking this test with me at 16personalities.com. When faced with unfamiliar problems, you prefer innovative solutions to traditional methods. Absolutely. 100%. 100%. You're excited by the prospect of exploring new social environments and dynamics. Absolutely. 100%. Agree. You have many routines in your daily life that you generally stick to. Nah, sort of. Yeah. You are still bothered by mistakes that you made a long time ago. 100%. That's 100%. You're comfortable, but wait a minute. You know what? Yeah, I'm still bothered by that, but I don't. It didn't ask, but that was a question, and yes, I am. You are uncomfortable with ambiguity and strongly prefer simplicity to complexity. Totally disagree with that. Your emotions control you more than you control them. Disagree. You take great care not to embarrass others even when it's their fault. I agree with that. I agree. Your personal work style is closer to spontaneous bursts of energy than organized and consistent efforts. Got to agree with that. When someone thinks highly of you, you wonder how long it will take for them to feel disappointed in you. I agree with that too. You would love a job that requires you to work alone most of the time. Disagree. You believe that pondering abstract philosophical questions is a waste of time. I strongly disagree with that. Engaging with new people invigorates you, sparking your curiosity and enthusiasm. 100% agree. You are often the peacekeeper when situations escalate. Peacekeeper when situations escalate. I try and be. I'd like to fully agree, but I try and be. I'm gonna. Sometimes you can't. You often feel overwhelmed. Disagree. You make sure to evaluate your progress toward long-term career goals at least once a month. Agree with that. And I'm always disappointing myself. Emotional experiences often lead you to new insights or realization. I agree. You are willing to give up a good opportunity if you believe someone else needs it more. No, I disagree with that. Why would I give up a good opportunity if someone else needs it more? No, because you got to take the opportunities that come your way. You struggle with deadlines. Totally agree. You feel confident that things will work out for you. Kind of disagree. I know when things won't work out for me too. So I'm going to have to disagree. My gender, male, female, other. I'm a male. Thank you very much. I guess this is it. Here are the results. Let's see what they say. My personality type is campaigner. ENFPA. Campaigners are enthusiastic, creative, and sociable free spirits who can always find a reason to smile. All right. I'm 86% extroverted and 14% introverted. Okay. I'm 87% intuitive and 13% observant. Oh, I think I'm more observant than that. Come on, man. Nature. I'm 59% feeling and 41% thinking. Wow, man. I wouldn't have thought that, but okay. 51% prospecting, 49% judging. All right, tactics. Prospecting individuals are very good at improvising and adapting to opportunities. They tend to be flexible nonconformists who value novelty above stability. That's true. Identity. I'm 67% assertive. Assertive individuals are self-assured, even-tempered, and resistant to stress. They refuse to worry too much and tend to be self-confident when striving to achieve goals. Okay. Before we move to your profile, would you like an email copy of your results? Sure, I would. Here, Robert Meyer Burnett at Ludovico. This is my company name. LudovicoTechnique.com. Okay. We've just emailed your results. Now let's start. Oh. Wait a minute. Now we're exploring my personality. It doesn't interest me what you do for a living. I want to know what you ache for and if you dare to dream of meeting your heart's longing. People with ENFP personality type campaigners are true free spirits, outgoing, open-hearted, and open-minded. With their lively, upbeat approach to life, ENFPs stand out in the crowd, but even though they can be the life of the party, they don't just care about having a good time. These personalities have profound depths that are fueled by their intense desire for meaningful emotional connections with others. This is pretty true. Okay. The magic of everyday life. Wow. ENFP personalities carry an interesting blend of carefree sociability, sparkling imagination, and deep contemplative introspection. They regularly use their natural curiosity and expansive creativity, I would say expensive creativity too, to try and better understand themselves and the complex dynamics of human relationships. And they're truly devoted to nurturing their relationships with and their understanding of the world at large. In their unique way, ENFP's introspective nature is driven by their imagination, wonder, and belief in things that cannot always be explained rationally. Man, this is a pretty accurate. How did these questions get so accurate? and belief in things that cannot always be explained rationally. People with this personality type truly believe that anything and everyone is connected, and they live for the glimmers of insight that they can gain from these connections. They believe that how we treat one another really matters. In fact, ENFPs are the most likely personality types to believe in the concept of karma. ENFPs are independent and creative, always on the lookout for the magic and meaning in everyday life. Man, this is like nailed it. They can't help but ponder the deeper significance of life, even when they should be paying attention to something else. Oh my God. This is scary. I'm terrified. I'm terrified that I've taken this test. When something sparks their imagination, ENFPs show an enthusiasm that is nothing short of infectious. These personalities can't help but to radiate a positive energy that draws other people in. Consequently, they might find themselves being held up by their peers as a leader or guru. However, once their initial bloom of inspiration wears off, ENFPs can struggle with self-discipline and consistency, losing steam on projects that once meant so much to them. Wow. Seeking joy. ENFP personalities are proof that seeking out life's joys and pleasures isn't the same as being shallow. Seemingly, in the blink of an eye, people with this personality type can transform from impassioned idealists to carefree figures on the dance floor. This is true. ENFP personalities are capable of intense thought and feeling, and also of kicking back and having a good time. Cheers to that. Even in moments of fun, ENFPs want to connect emotionally with others. Few things matter more to these personalities than having genuine, heartfelt conversations with the people they cherish. ENFPs believe that everyone deserves to express their feelings, and their empathy and warmth create spaces where even the most timid spirits can feel comfortable opening up. ENFPs need to be careful, however. Their intuition may lead them to read far too much into other people's actions and behaviors. Instead of simply asking for an explanation, they may end up puzzling over someone else's desires or intentions. So true. This kind of social stress is what keeps harmony-focused ENFP personalities awake at night. ENFPs will spend a lot of time exploring different relationships, feelings, and ideas before they find a path for their life that feels right. But when they do, they finally find their way. Their imagination, empathy, and courage can light up not only their own life, but the world around them. There's 95% of campaigner insights starting today. Okay, well, I gotta do all this. I'm gonna keep this here. This is terrifying. I'm terrified at how accurate this is. This is terrifying. Wow. Okay, I'm terrified. I am terrified. So Tom Jr. Jackson says Briggs Myers test is 10 to 15 minutes. RRTNZ says Chuck Norris was in Godzilla. He played the A-bomb. You guys are the best. Well, that's really interesting. I'm going to get the upgrade. I'll use that and get the upgraded test, and I will definitely do that. So that is amazing. I'm going to get this thing and share it more with you. So Gregory Gilligan, there you go. I did that. Patrick Stewart, thank you so much. I'm going to use this money that people have sent and get this new thing and get the 95% of the rest of the insights into this test. 1001 Johnny says, Rob, send them to Jess of the Shire's YouTube channel and her video History Channel doesn't get J.R.R. Tolkien. The man himself had to answer the question if Lord of the Rings ended poorly. Also, Rob, I paid you $30. No free tests, damn you. Okay, I'm going to go. You guys. I'm going to go buy this, but I have to imagine that I've got to put in credit card information and all that. But I'm going to do that, and I'm going to share it with you because everyone's been giving me money. But the super chats, I don't get, you don't get those right away. I get your tip right away, though, so I can go do that. I'll do that when I get off this stream. Darth Plato sends in a tip and says, it helps to understand the end of the One Ring in noting that Frodo and Sam are not supposed to be studied separately. Sam is to Frodo what a Batman was to a British officer in World War I. Frodo got them there, and Sam saved Frodo and even Gollum in a way. I totally agree with you. Joey Johnson says, he sends in a super chat and says, happy birthday, man. You may park your shuttlecraft in my shuttle bay for now. You guys crack me up. It's so funny. let's see if I have any more letters before I get to more things here, which is crazy, but we'll see. No, I think I've got caught up with the letters I wanted to catch up with. All right, so I am going to go to bed shortly. Then I'll bring this fun. This is a most fun. Adventure Square says, the Parallax Corporation thanks you for participating in this test. Okay, for those of you, it's like forgotten now. It's a forgotten movie. This is a great movie. Alan Pakula, Warren Beatty. It was one of the primary inspirations for the X-Files. If you guys have never seen The Parallax View, why not? Trust me, it's a product of the 70s, but it's a really great movie. And you'll see it's one of the great conspiracy thriller movies of the 70s. It might be my favorite. You know, I love 3 Days of the Condor and Marathon Man and all that kind of stuff, but The Parallax View might be my favorite. Also because it starts in Seattle, my hometown. But that's very funny. It's very funny, Adventure Square. Michael Piatowski says, Robert, what is your opinion on the Crow remarks, and have you pre-ordered the 4K? Okay. One of my most eagerly awaited 4K discs of this year is The Crow. Alex Proyas' The Crow. It's its 30th anniversary. I love The Crow. I really love The Crow. And I really hope that they know how important it is to have gone back in and do a brand new transfer. I mean, Miramax, they've released great discs. The Crow had a great double disc DVD. It had the first Blu-ray I bought was Japanese, actually. The Crow needs a great 4K transfer with Dolby Atmos and Dolby Vision. And it's Paramount, and I really hope they didn't skimp. I know we're getting a steelbook, and I can't wait for The Crow. I love The Crow. I love the score of The Crow. I love the music of The Crow. I love Brandon Lee's performance. You know, Mother is the name of God on the lips of all children. Can't rain all the time. I love The Crow. I hope the disc is good, because if it isn't, it's one of my most eagerly awaited of this year. Irene Jobson says, I love birthday celebrations. I am ENFJT. Well, what does that mean? What is the name of ENF? What is that, your person? I got to print all this out. But, yeah, I mean, I love The Crow. I dearly hope it's good. I dearly hope it's good. So I can only cross my fingers. All I can do is cross my fingers. So, yeah. And on that note, everybody, I'm going to end this very fun stream. I want to thank all of you. What a fun stream this has been. And thanks for all your support. Thanks for the member call today. I will be back on Let's Get Physical Media tomorrow with Dieter. I don't have a lot of stuff. I got a few good things, though. Some very exciting things. And we'll have fun, and we can watch Dieter relive his Cynthia Rothrock hour. An hour with Cynthia. I want to thank everybody. This was a fun... for just doing a letter stream, I didn't think I'd be doing a Myers-Briggs test right here live, and I found out stuff about myself I didn't know. So thank you for all of that. I very much appreciate that. Thanks for everybody that has written in letters. I hope that if you missed your letter, we caught up. I got some letters back from November, December that I didn't catch. You can write letters right there. It's free. postgeeksingularity.com. And I love your letters. Normally I read them during shows, but tonight we did it this way. So this was fun. So thank you all very much, and I'll be back tomorrow. I am going to see Dune 2 with a bunch of YouTubers tomorrow, such as Polly from Latino Slant, Chris Gore, Comic Book Girl 19, and I don't know who else is going to be there, but it's going to be a party, and I will be probably doing some broadcasts and some videos from Dune, and we're meeting at the Yard House at 5 o'clock and going to see the 7 o'clock screening of Dune. So that'll be great, and I look forward to talking with you after and before. So look for me there. And on that note, It's very interesting. I am now looking at this. I'm looking at my I'm looking at the shot, and I don't know why this has happened, but something strange has happened to my this show. I don't have my did it disappear? I don't have my graphic. There was a graphic here, and it doesn't seem to be here anymore. And I was going to sign off, but I can't sign off without my graphic. Something weird has happened to my something very strange has happened to my computer, and I don't know what it is. It's very odd. Something really odd has happened to me, and I don't know why. So on that note, I guess I'm just going to sign off because I have to figure out what this problem is. So on that note, everyone, I want to thank you all for being here. And remember, every person you meet has a story to tell that you have yet to hear. And all you have to do is listen. And with that note, I say to all of you, have a better night, and thank you to my great moderator and Tom Jr. Jackson for staying up and being here. You are the man. And all the members missed you today at the member call. So you're still loved, Tom, for now and always.